What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Good to see you all this evening on this lovely Sunday night. And I do say lovely because here in the frozen north, it is not quite as freezing anymore. So very happy, looking really forward to finally getting some more light, which we're getting, of course, with the daylight savings times last weekend. And finally getting a little bit of heat. Well, not yet, but soon. Good to see you. You're not here anymore, of course, Mr. Easy Go Lucky, and maybe you'll catch this on the rewind. Just wanted to say thank you as always for all your support, for rallying the lights. That helps because Lord knows I always forget to do that. So I appreciate it, and I hope you do have a well. By the time you see this, I hope you had a great dinner with your family. So very much appreciate that. Thank you so much, sir. My lovely wife, the big supporter as well. Thank you so much, hon. CJ, what is up, dude? Good to see you, of course, as always. And the Rickster. Good evening to you, sir. My buddy from Michigan, Jason Ladwig. What is up, sir? Good to see you. And Hobby Hal. Hal, do you want us to call you Hal? Is it cool to call you Hal, or should we say Hobby Halbert like you have it here? Because I think on CAF you're Hobby Hal. Don't you go by Hal on CAF? I don't know. That you guys change your names too much on every single platform. That's what that makes it confusing. But I'm going to call you Hal if I want, unless you tell me otherwise. Jeff Wedding, what is up, sir? Greetings, and let us know if you're here for the duration or if you are in your car on the way home, as you often are. Mark V, what is up, Mr. Vega? Good to see you, sir. Aloha, all the way from Maui. Are you in Maui, actually? Is that where you always are? You're living there, Carl? Let me know, my friend. But aloha to you, and thank you as always for tuning in. And the countdown is gone, actually, now, Marcus. But good to see you as well, my friend. What is up, Gabe? Gabe Carino, making it tonight like that. Good to see you. Ian, are you here for tonight? What's the scoop, man? Tell me if you're in and out with the family or what the deal is. It'd be cool if you can hang out a bit more tonight. John Brown, good evening to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in, of course, and thank you for breaking the Canadian ice. You're welcome as always. I appreciate you so much, my friend. Thank you, man. There we go. Get the response. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, Hal. I appreciate it. But don't just do it for me, by the way. I'm very appropriate when it comes to names. I don't want people just to say yeah, even though it secretly bothers them. If you go by your full name, if you go by Halbert, you let me know. I don't have a problem with Halbert, actually. So you just let me know, man. And still finishing up. Oh, yeah, that's right, because you're on your road trip. Okay, no worries. I appreciate you tuning in, though, Ian, even though you're on your road trip. Have a good time. And who else we got? Yeah, Stevie B. What's up, Stevie B? Hearty hello to the host and chatters all. And, of course, to my guest who's coming on soon. And, yes, Hal is my name, so totally fine. Awesome. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. And born and raised on Maui. Okay, excellent. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And yes, CJ, you see? You got it, baby. That's who I am. The people pleaser. Hey, man, I try. You know I try. Oh, no. Just logging in, y'all. What's up, Hart? Van life forever, for sure. But when you say just logging in, do you mean you're just logging in to say hi? Or are you hanging out tonight? Yeah, let me know. I guess I'll see you anyways. But yeah, appreciate you coming in as always. Everybody's strolling in. Tariq, what is up, Tariq? Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. I hope you can stick around a little bit tonight. That would be nice to have everybody hang out for a bit. Who else? What else? Okay, so okay, you can hang out a while. Okay, excellent. I appreciate that, man. Sounds good. All right, everybody. So you're too kind. I appreciate it, though. Thank you, Tariq. I appreciate it. My man in Southern Cali, who already has the heat 365 days a year. I envy you. And yeah, so everybody, there's not much to say. You guys, well, I'm assuming most of you, anyways, saw the video thumbnail for tonight. And you know what? I say I usually ask, but I saved this for tonight because you guys know how I am with the names. So I'm gonna bring in my friend Nick, and then I'm gonna have him, because I always say get it from the horse's mouth. So I'm gonna bring him in right now, and we're gonna do the name game. All right. So please, everybody, welcome my buddy Nick to the broadcast. What's up, Nick?
Hey, Ruben, how are you? The people to this guy see, so that's great, you know.
I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and it looks like a lot of great guests in the background. So
yeah. These fellas are cool, and everybody's friendly. That's the good thing about the show. Everybody's like really bunch of good guys, and very rarely gals. There you go. See, there we go. Here. Let me pop them up here for you. Hello, Nick. You got your hi, Nick. Greetings. And your howdy. There you go. But yeah, Nick, I wanted to ask you backstage, because we already talked about this privately back at Jeff's house last summer. But we guys talk about this on the show like a lot about, you know, pronunciation of artist names, especially, right? A lot of them get butchered, blah blah blah, and especially with the whole, formerly Yugoslavian part of the world, whether it's Croatian, Serbian, what have you, and in particular because of the whole Assad thing. People have reduced themselves to now saying, yeah, Assad, right, rather than the last name, which they often do, right? Because it's like everybody kind of knows now not to say Ribic, right? It's not Ribic. So I thought, you know what?
Yeah.
Let me ask you to tell them here on camera how to say your name, because it's very much the same way you would sort of say Assad's name, you know?
Yeah. So Assad would be Assad Ribic. And my name's a little bit more complicated because it ends with ich. So that's like a traditional or common kind of ending on the Slavic side, Eastern Europe. But then there's a sh sound for the S. So if you want to pronounce it properly, it's actually Postic. But everybody calls me Postic, so that's, you know.
So okay, interesting. So I wanted to ask about that. I was going to say, do people usually say? Because people to me have said when they're referring to you, they say Postic more often than Postic.
Yeah, I'd say most people call me Postic. I've heard Postic. I've heard Postic, because some people know there's an itch. You know, it's tricky when you have like a V above the S and a little accent aigu on the C, right? So, and then the Cyrillic alphabet's a whole different thing, right? But yeah, Postic is the proper pronunciation. Postic is fine. Postic is fine.
Well, that's the thing. Obviously, like if you say Postic, obviously, I would never go so far as to assume that people should pronounce it that way, as if they are themselves from the former Yugoslavia, right? But so it's nice to know. But at the same time, I guess I would say, how do you tell people to Americanize it? So in other words, your preferred Americanization would be Postic?
Yeah, we just go Postic. Yeah, it's just easier that way. And then those that know, and you know, people try their best. Like I said, they put one accent in, miss the other, but they wouldn't know. You know, if you remember that artist Marko Đurđević, I think he's out of Germany. I think it's Serbian's background. It's Đurđević with a DJ, U-R-D-J. Yeah, there's lots of funky sounds.
Yeah. For him, I always said Đurđević. Would that not have been more? If you were, trying to be as accurate in that language as possible? Or am I?
I think. Well, I mean, there's lots of different dialects. So in some village somewhere, that might be exactly how they pronounce it. I don't know. But, Normally, it's you. I think they simplified the language. It's like you read it, you say it how you read it, and you write it how you hear it. So everything is phonetic.
Yeah, but I mean, what would be the closest Americanization or Anglicization of his name?
Oh man. That would probably get butchered, like my wife's maiden name, which also has the same DJ. So it would be hard. I'm sure they'd be like the I don't know.
I think
or something. I don't know.
Don't most people say Djurdjevic? I think that's what I hear often.
It could be Djurdjevic. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. Hoarders Hive, what is up, Scott? Good to see you, sir. David Barr from Oz, all the way from down in Australia. I love it. David, you must be at work as always, and I'm sure it's 11 minutes past. Is it 11 past noon right now for you? Because we advanced an hour, so that means it's probably 11 minutes past 11 in the morning for you. Is that right, David? No, tell me. Let me know. And David says hello to you. There you go.
Hey, David.
Maki Poo Poo. Good to see you, Maki Poo Poo. And what a great, I love this guy.
Kind of like postage, yeah. Very good. And actually, if you think about the POST, actually stands for mail. Like mail, like sending out the mail. So some ancestor line was probably a mailman or something.
Oh, interesting.
People get named by what either by where they, their ancestry, or their name by the job they do.
Or what kind of trade they used to do or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, like Hoarders Hide says, like postage stamp. That's pretty cool. Right. Kazra, whoa!
What the heck, man?
Oh!
Nice to see you on here. Yeah, I love it. I'm sure you went wild with MODOK in that Ant-Man Quantumania movie. I was thinking about you when I watched that film. I was like, Kazra must be loving this.
And Kazra, I appreciate the fact that you said an excited hello to Nick and didn't say fuck all to me. I appreciate that, but thank you. No offense taken, and we're good. We're good. CJ, great urinal, huh? Okay, well, that must be your own thing. All right. Free comics. Hey, by the way, guys, I was blessed with a Djurdjevic 4-page as my first original art. Wow, okay, it was all downhill from there. Okay, well, good for you. And thank you again for Free Comics for subscribing last week. And Gabe, likes. Yeah, please, everybody, hit the like button if you don't mind. That's the thumbs up for some of you who don't know where to find the like. I would really appreciate that, especially since Mr. Easy Go Lucky isn't here tonight to rally them all. Okay, that's what I thought. So 11 in the morning, right? Just after 11 in the morning. Thank you, David. I appreciate it. And okay, yeah. Now because I busted your chops. I guilted you into saying hello to me. And Free Comics. Oh, it was Hoarders Hide who sent you. Oh, okay. You mean last week then? Okay, yeah, he's the one who brought you in. I get what you're saying. Excellent. And before I forget, because I often do, there's a couple of people. Let me see here quick. And you're the first one on the list since last week. Here, if you guys can see on the scrolling screen at the bottom to the newest people who subscribed. It was you, Aaron Odinson last week. Walia Mada. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope I pronounced it. It looks like it should be or Valia. If you're Polish, maybe Valia Mada. Whatever. If you're here listening, please correct me if I butchered it. I appreciate it. But yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate that. Tonight, everybody, we are going to do it's a hangout. So it's going to be more, chit chat, shoot the breeze kind of thing like we typically do on Hangout. We will be showing some art, but because it's not a show and tell, it's not an episode of show and tell. It's not going to be your typical, 20 to 24 pieces. I'm thinking it's probably about a dozen or so. Still pretty good. And then, Nick's got a good, fun history, a good, interesting background that I think you guys all really appreciate hearing. It'll, a little bit different from most guys who come on. And so that's why I figured we'd do a hangout with Nick rather than a full blown comic art show and tell. So with that, Nick, you ready to get started or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? Okay, cool. So I think the best way to start is our usual way, simply. What I'd like to know, just to part of the reason I do this, all these different little shows that I do. It's because it's a way to sort of try to bring collectors together more, right? Because a lot of us don't see each other. A lot of us don't travel to cons and whatnot, right? And I guess this way, a lot of us know each other from being online and seeing our names cross in front of us. Let's say whether it's CAF or Facebook or whatever, right? But we don't really know much about ourselves. So this gives us a chance to sort of get, at least every time somebody comes in studio with me, to let everybody else know a little bit more about them, right? I don't need the life story or anything, but in particular, what we all share, we share the love of comics, comic art. And so if you don't mind, it would be great if you could perhaps go a little bit back in time, give us a little bit of background as to what age you discovered comics, and maybe how you discovered them, how they were introduced to you, perhaps. And then you can kind of, from there, skip forward to the part where, you somehow, how did you discover artwork, the original art, and how'd you get into that, and how and when you bought your first piece, and, take it from there, basically.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for letting me take the reins, I guess.
Yeah, no worries.
As I kind of think through, it's a long way away. But I was kind of trying to triangulate it, maybe around that Superman movie with Christopher Reeves, and picking up a Superman comic book off the shelf.
Okay, well let me ask you right off the bat, if you don't mind telling us. You don't have to if you don't want to. Do you mind revealing how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 47.
Okay.
And so right around the time when I remember Superman 2, maybe.
Wow, yeah. Because I was just going to say that I think. I think it was 1978 for the first one, I believe, right? Yeah. So I was 8 years old. So that means you're like 5 years younger. So, wow, then it probably would have been the second Superman movie, perhaps.
Richard Pryor, I think.
Yeah, but what you're saying is that your first exposure, you remember, to superheroes probably would have been one of the Superman movies.
Yeah, our Super Friends rerun cartoons. I watched a lot of cartoons, so I would say, definitely a Superman comic book being the first one. I would never be able to say which one that was at this point. Okay. All the comics back then would go in the garbage with my mom if I didn't leave them in the right spot, so who knows what that looked like. But and then, watch the G.I. Joe, Transformers, all that kind of stuff. So then I used to kind of pick up the G.I. Joe comic books. I remember picking up Batman and the Outsiders, wondering what the heck is this all about with the Batman.
Okay.
And then trading some comics with my friends. Maybe I remember trading one or two of those for some of the later, maybe the Snake Eyes origins, from the G.I. Joes. And collecting the toys, watching the cartoon, collecting comics. And then lucky for me, I had a local comic shop nearby, so riding my bike there even at a young age was pretty simple.
That really makes a huge difference, doesn't it? It doesn't the lack of the store, certainly didn't prevent a lot of these guys, right, in the hobby from discovering comics. But wow, if you had that access to that store that sold nothing really but comics when you were a kid, wow, it makes it so much better and easier, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was like, maybe 45 cents at the time, the comics. So very easy to just, pick up some change and go and pick up something different. So I remember my brother was a huge Hulk fan. So there's a lot of kind of Hulk comics in the house, Batman. Okay. And then on my end, I would say mostly Marvel, even though, yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right, Kazra, that's right.
Yeah, I just, I just want to interrupt you if you don't mind for a second.
Yeah,
I just want to make the point that I love that Kazra said that, because the reality is, don't you hate it when people say usually it's people who find out you're a collector, so non-collectors, and they find out you're a collector, and they go they say something to the effect of, "Oh, so comics, right? Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, and I had a ton of them, but my mom threw them out. Oh my God, if she hadn't done that, I'd be rich today, right?" And it's like, you probably had garbage. It was probably all in shit condition. You wouldn't be rich at all, right? And then there's also the fact that everybody says that. So therefore, if nobody's mom had thrown them out, these things wouldn't be as rare, and they would, you know what I mean? They wouldn't be worth as much. So that's it. Just annoying,
Yeah, so there's many Gretzky rookie cards that went in the garbage with those comics. So I'm sure,
Yeah,
I'm sure everyone's feeling the same thing.
Yeah, baseball cards too. Yeah. Basically, anything you collected, the moms would have thrown them all away, right? My mom threw away my Playboys. Well, it depends what age you were, CJ. She might have had a good reason to, Guys, I was just telling a story. Sorry again, not to want to interrupt you. I promise I'll let you talk right after this. I just wanted to say, because of that comment CJ made, that I was having a conversation with a couple of privately on like Zoom, a couple of friends of mine, collector friends, and I told them a story about how when I was, I don't know, 15, maybe 15, 16, still in high school. And back in those days, the exciting thing for guys was like, oh, if you could get your hands on the yearly issue of Swimsuit Illustrated from Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, whatever.
Yeah,
that was like the big deal, whatever. And I remember finally, when I had enough money to finally buy something more than just, let's say, my monthly Hulk and Spidey issue, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get the Sports Illustrated, swimsuit issue. And of course, like, my parents, old Europeans, right? They're never going to talk about sex. They just, put their head in the sand and pretend it doesn't exist, right? So I'm not going to show them like, oh, I'm into chicks, whatever, So I would bring this thing home. And of course, okay, I'm going to look at it in my room. And then she's going to clean eventually. So I got to hide it somewhere. So I'm like, okay, I'll stick it under the mattress, between the box spring and the mattress, right?
Yeah.
So one day, I go up and go, oh yeah, let me go. My friend wants to see it. I'm like, yeah, let me go. I'm gonna go and pull my my swimsuit issue out. And I'm there like, I'm like reaching. I don't have to look, right? Because I know where it is. I'm like reaching. I'm like, I don't feel nothing. I'm like, what? And you start tapping everywhere. You're like, what? Did it shift while I was sleeping? Like, what the hell, Next thing you know, I'm having to lift the whole thing up, looking underneath. It's nowhere to be found. Can you imagine? My mother at some point decided she was gonna make my bed. Found it, I disposed of it, but didn't even think to even talk to me about it. Like, it was just, that's it. Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
He's not.
You learned your lesson. You know what happened, so you figure it out, right? Like, you could use like my excuse. It's reference material for drawing. How to draw women.
Yeah. You know what's funny is back then in those days, I did draw. It's just that I didn't draw much from life. I did actually, but not a lot. And my mom knew I just loved drawing, like copying superhero pinups from the Marvel Universe series. That's what I used to love doing. So yeah, that excuse wouldn't have flown, because I was never drawing regular females. So yeah, so that's it. It's just a funny little, yes, exactly, Marcus. Yeah, Ruben the Buster. But I admit it. I bet you a lot of you guys have a similar sort of type stories there. And there you go. Look at that. Tariq admits it. Look at that. Exactly. Oh, you little devil, CJ. You dirty dog, you. Look at Gazra. Every time Christy Rinke gets divorced, I still think I have a chance. Good old Kathy Ireland. Yeah, the good old days. Yeah, no, my time, Rick, you must be a bit younger than me. Is that possible, Rick? Because Cindy Crawford I was already in my early 20s when she came on the scene, and I was not into her. But the Kathy Ireland, yeah, for sure. Christy Brinkley. Back in I remember Kazarov. You remember being pissed off when she married Billy Joel? I remember the news came out like on Entertainment Tonight. They reported it, and I was like, Billy Joel, what? What? That ugly piece of shit? What? What a crazy way to think, as if even if I was the most gorgeous 13-year-old in the world, as if I had a chance somehow, you know what I mean? So ridiculous what you think when you're a child, But anyways, okay, we've done what we see. This is what I was telling you, Nick, off camera the other day on the Hangout show. This is kind of what happens a lot. We go off topic. We're just having fun. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
But there you go. And let me. Oh my God, hold on. Comics and swimsuit magazines is a natural transition. There you go.
Published work. It's all about the published work.
Yes. Look at him. Hoarder's High says, "Get in line. I loved Billy Joel as a kid until he married my girl." Well, I liked him too. That's why. That's why. But it wasn't just because of that. It was just like, he's not the greatest looking dude. Come on, man. What else we got here? Keep the faith. Hoarder's High. Nice. Okay. Sorry about that, Nick, man. Sorry. Let's get back on track, and I'll let you continue the story.
Yeah, no worries. I would say off and on collecting comics here and there. And I remember picking up, well, I guess knowing the Avengers, and then picking up, yes, the real double page splash, but the vertical rather than the double.
Yeah.
So,
very vertical. Yeah.
And so I remember picking up on the spinner rack, the West Coast Avengers. I think it was like issue 11 or 12, maybe. Al Milgrom, Joe Sinnott, Steve Englehart, and then I had to pick up the next few, because you pick up one issue just to pick it up, and suddenly you're missing the storyline before and after, right? So then I had to run back and pick up the next issue just to at least get a little bit of continuity, and that kind of picked up again. I collected that series, and hunted back issues. Having that local comic shop helped, because then I was kind of hunting around, to find the previous issues, and the Marvel Universe and some of these other things that you were talking about. Just kind of picking up all the things, learning about all the characters, and so I would say Hulk, all those kinds of things at that time. I think
it's pretty cool. I just want to say that it's you mentioned earlier that when you first started getting some comics, I thought it was pretty cool that you mentioned like you even traded some with your friends. Not because of the trading thing, although that's cool because you could read each other's comics, but like I just think it's cool that if you think about it, not only did you have a comic shop nearby, right in the neighborhood at a young age, but it's also pretty fortunate that you had friends who were also into comics, because a lot of guys don't. Like a lot of people kind of were solitary and just kind of read and kept it to themselves, kind of thing,
Yeah. My cousins, my friends, they all had some kind of issues or some kind of interest. Mostly Marvel, though, I would say, which was maybe the sign of the times. I don't know, maybe Spider-Man being out and some other things.
Yeah.
So, I think the Hulk cartoon was out at that time. The Spider-Man is Amazing Friends, so a little bit more.
Yeah. I think they certainly did a better job at promoting and marketing their characters, like to the broader audience,
Yeah, I think they had that G.I. Joe commercial as well. I issued 14 or something, but Bethesda, like to see something on TV was kind of
imagine crazy. I don't know if you remember, if you kept track of these things. I was always very interested in the business side of comics, even as a teenager. For I don't know, 2 or 3 years, G.I. Joe had surpassed X-Men as the top Marvel selling book. I mean, like that's insane. So, but imagine how much of that was due to them promoting, right, with the commercial on in conjunction with the toy commercials, right? Like, that's amazing. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I collected that series up until I don't know, issue 50 or so after Serpentor.
Yeah,
and then by then I phased on to Sports Illustrated and other things probably. So, but yeah, so that's collected a lot of that kind of stuff, or jumped from one series to the next, and then lots of different gaps of collecting. I think up to grade 8, you go to high school, then maybe partway through high school, comics became cool again in the 90s, and so picking up the Jim Lee. Did
they? Okay, right, because you're high. Okay, because you're right, and you're 5 years after me, so yeah, that makes sense. 5 years after, because for me, when I'm graduating high school, it's 87. And it's like, no, like, I clearly remember this one kid in high school, a couple, I don't know, 2 or 3 grades lower than me, always walking around with this bright yellow Alpha Flight t-shirt, right? And I would always scream out to him, Alpha Flight, and just for the hell of it, just so he knew that, or at least to make him think that, hey, is he into comics too, or no, or is he just reading my shirt or what,
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was definitely not something that was part of the it's becoming the norm. It's cool to be into like heroes, superheroes, or whatever. For me, 87, no. You don't promote the fact that you like comics or whatever. Like I never had a problem mentioning it if it came up, but it's not really a topic that would come up anyways. You know what I mean? But yeah, by the time you graduated, I guess that makes more sense. By that point, all those creators made those waves on TV with the image thing, right?
Not even just that. I mean, the Batman movie with Michael Keaton came out.
Batman,
it was a huge thing, right? Like seeing that in the theater for the first time, and a couple times, the friends going back and watching that. Like really, everybody was looking for Dark Knight Returns and the movie adaptation, etc.
Sorry. See what happens, Nick? You get distracted when you start reading the comics.
Yeah.
Speaking of trading, I bought a Golden Age collection. Almost every book had a makeshift library card stapled to the back cover so the kid could keep track of them as he loaned them to people. That's funny. Wow. Okay. That's interesting. Never heard that before.
Yeah, almost like a video shop. You're lending them out and making sure they return the book.
Kazra says 40-something Canadian that hasn't mentioned Alpha Flight yet. You're killing the stereotype.
North Star.
CJ, I don't know what you. Sorry, because I'm coming obviously a minute late to your comment. Not sure what I said that made you think that I was the gangster, but I appreciate it. I'll take it as a good thing, not a bad thing. I wore my Cerebus the Dictator. I remember those T-shirt to school, and no one had a clue. See, but that's different, Rick. That's different because exactly you've got this aardvark that people at school wouldn't even have known was an aardvark. They'd be like, yeah, whatever, it's some cute little thing on his T-shirt, you know. They wouldn't have pegged you as, you comic nerd, you know? So that's the thing. And Alpha Flight was a good Canadian team. CA? Is that CA at the end? I don't know what that means with a CA at the end.
There's a flag. There's a Canadian flag at the end.
Oh, you're seeing a flag?
Yeah, there's a little Canadian flag at the end.
Oh, that's so weird. Oh, it's so bizarre. So this keeps happening to me. On my end, all I see is the initial CA, which I guess that's the code for the Canadian flag that you can put as an emoji.
Yeah, it must be.
Don't ask me why it's not showing me as as a flag, but
I don't know how many bad Canadian teams there were, Marcus. So, being a good Canadian team could be, well, maybe Beta Flight. Beta Flight could have been, or Omega Flight, or whatever the next.
Omega and Beta Flight. Yeah. And Gamma Flight.
Gamma Flight. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I missed that, CJ. Yeah, you put a G. It was Gagster. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't catch that the first time. Yeah, Ruben was more of a goth teen. Hell no. Oh my God, I may have been tempted to beat those guys up if I had been still in high school at that time. No, that's not true. I wasn't a violent kid. I was a very nice person, but no, I definitely think I would have just avoided those kids. I think everybody in every school when goth was a thing probably avoided goths, and I think that's why goth kids you typically kind of hear about stories where they kept to themselves, right? And they didn't really make friends with everybody else because they were just so different from everybody else, you know? Alberto, what is up? Happy Sunday to you, sir. What's going on? Well, grab a seat, pull up a seat, and listen. The Nickster here is telling us, through all my interruptions, trying to tell us his story of how he got into comics. So take a seat and listen. Sorry, man. Let's get back to you, my friend.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, that's again off and on. I think you'll see some examples of art today, maybe that tells a little bit of story of those periods of collecting comics, not collecting comics, and thinking about original art. Reading the Kirby Collector while I was in university, and just seeing the originals and kind of just getting engrossed in Jack Kirby was really interesting to me. And kind of having access to the originals. And then buying early from Mitch, way back.
Lyle.
In terms of picking up some original pieces and then, spun off from there. But I think
you picked some originals from Mitch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the early days of the internet, on the university computer there.
Okay, so hold on.
His old site.
Hold on, Nick. So now you're in university. You discover the Jack Kirby Collector from Tomorrow's, which was I love that. That was pretty great. So you get into that. First, I want to know. I'm sure other people are curious. What was your thoughts about Kirby before you discovered that magazine?
I think, like I said, with the books I was collecting, maybe the first exposure for me to Jack Kirby was Superpowers, if you can imagine.
All right.
And so you see that, by then he was on the back end of all the work he had done on Marvel, and I would say, as a kid, I was like, what is this kind of art?
Yeah.
Had all the characters, had all the DC guys, Penguin, Joker, all these kinds of guys, and which is why I picked up the series. And I would say probably had more of an appreciation to it later on as I was going through high school and probably buying some back issues and things like this. as to the storytelling and the Marvel way, if you want to kind of put it that way, with all their house artists, etc. So I was, it was cool to read the history in the collector, and I was buying the collected editions. And back then, it was a lot of the murder art. You see the advertisements, and then you have to phone them up. And then eBay came out, so I bought some art through eBay as well in the early days.
Okay, hold on, because now you're getting to the good part where you're just glossing over it. So we always like to know. What was your first piece, and where did you buy it? How did you come to own that first piece?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, maybe getting back to the comic thing. So between the back end of high school, Image Comics came out. I was actually not very into Image, despite collecting the Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld, etc., on the X-Men and Mutants, etc. And then there's a gap there, and working part-time jobs, etc., going to school. Then I had some cash. I would go to the comic store and pick up all these back issues of things that I wanted to read, maybe when I was younger, I'd heard about, right? So I was picking up the New Mutants run with from one through whatever at the time, 30 or 40, whatever. And so then, Bill Sienkiewicz. I think, back then as well, when the comic shops wanted to get rid of their excess inventory, they would do like 25 cents a comic, and they would just have these bins of 25-cent comics. So I bought the Elektra Assassin series.
Nice, for 25 cents.
25 cents a pop, and I was just reading like 25-cent comics, really filling the gap of the storylines, and kind enough my dad to take me there and spend an hour in his car probably while I'm just sifting through all the books trying to find.
Yeah, also a lot of my friends who have come on in the studio with me during all these shows that I've done, quite a lot of them have told us a similar story about how it was their dad who was willing to drive them to the store and hung out until they. I gotta say, because it was the opposite. I did not have one of those dads. So when I hear those stories, I'm always like, props to your dad. Is he still alive?
He's still alive. He probably could care less about comic books. But with my son, I'm sure he likes comic books a lot more. But he was always very supportive. Both parents.
Well,
they would go to the comic store regularly, my brother and I. And like I said, my dad would sit in the parking lot for an hour or two while I was sifting through all these back issues. So a lot of patience there. There's no cell phone, no iPhone to play on back there. So I don't know what he was doing.
Right. That's crazy. That's what I'm saying. Like, to me, that's like dad and mom, whatever. Thank you. Really, you did the right thing, and more parents should be that supportive. So yeah, that's fantastic. I love hearing that.
Yeah, so in university, I picked up. I really liked painted works, so I picked up. I think the series I picked up, limited series Typhoid with John Van Fleet, with the Marvel Edge. They were kind of coming back. They had Epic. I remember reading and picking up in the 25-cent bins the Marvel Epic line, St. George and Straight Toasters, whatever was in there, and then so I like that painted stuff.
I was gonna say, did you? So because you mentioned the few of the things of the art that we have to show. Do you want us to? Should we show some of it now a bit?
Yeah, why not? Let's talk around and just continue to fill in the story.
Okay, yeah, because you'll just rewind a little bit your story, because you did throw out that you had picked up the West Coast Avengers, and that's the first piece we have here, right?
So when I was younger, off the rack, I think I picked up West Coast Avengers 11, which was I think just as like Shield was becoming corrupt, and then the following issue I just ran back and bought it. It was the Graviton coming back.
Graviton.
And I picked up 13, this is the cover to issue 13.
Yeah.
I don't know if Graviton rules or not, but I really did the storyline. And here's the Christmas tree outfit that Wonder Man wore.
Yeah.
Newly christened outfit. And you can see he's struggling with it.
I can't tell you how much I despise that outfit. Oh God. Oh.
With a WM, that's I don't know if Al Milgram designed it or someone else, but
I don't know, man. But that's just horrific. I mean, the color is horrific, and then the WM. Like, what are you thinking?
I think it's an homage was a outfit, right? Which wasn't so hot to begin with in his first appearances. Then you put this jetpack on the back, and
Yeah. That's true as well.
But I always thought, the what is it? The Silver Centurion Iron Man was really cool. I mean, there were a lot of good storylines with Bob Lee and Bright, etc. around those, and Armor Wars. So I was really into the Iron Man at that time too, and obviously Hawkeye and stuff like this. So I was really collecting back issues, and I was lucky enough to pick up to actually get this piece. This one is actually fairly recent. I picked it up towards the back end of last year from the Sinnott estate. So from Sinnott's family.
Wow.
And, it actually ended up being the perfect cover around the period I actually started picking the comics up. So it really kind of hits a nostalgic spot for me.
Yeah. I would presume that that you have do you have the specific memory of when this issue in particular came out and you bought it off the stands?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It was probably my backpack with my lunch smushing around it, because I think the original issue I had was all kind of crinkly and stained with banana or something on it.
So you weren't into really, so at the start you were more into just loving the comics for what they really are rather than the collecting aspect of it, right? Yeah,
absolutely. But then you get a collection, and with your friends you're trading, and you're trying to look at, and you can really read the stories, right? So absolutely.
Yeah. CJ is right. Yeah, you really like the black and white. The black and white's usually the first one.
Yeah, and you can see his eyes. I feel like the colorist was meant to make his eyes bright red.
Yes,
I feel like they're open. I feel like they're open in the black and white, but then they colored it in with the skin tone and the colored version.
Yes, that's what it appeared to me, that it looked like they were going to be glowing red, and that I don't know if I don't know that I'm willing to go out on a limb and say the colorist made a mistake, or if the editor said, you know what, he's struggling, so just color it the same color so that it looks like he's eyes closed or whatever. So might have been purposeful, just
I was thinking like originally, Wonder Man gets up from Graviton in the issue, so you would think this might be foreshadowing him kind of getting out of the force, which bright red eyes would have made sense. But I think you're right, the editor probably was like, let's show him struggling. And
I think so. I think so. Yeah, no, it's a cool one though. It's fun. Good memories on that for me too. I liked West Coast Avengers a lot. Okay, so from there, you also mentioned in the very, very recent past that you went back and got the back issues of this title, and this is killer stuff.
Yeah, so I was, New Mutants is one that I didn't read when it came out, but it was one of those that I just went and gobbled up all the back issues. And I knew X-Men. I would read X-Men, but not so much the New Mutants. And then my friends and I really liked Bill Sienkiewicz, and you're right, he's the ugly Christmas sweater of superheroes. We'll see when the new show comes out whether he'll be wearing that outfit or not. Excuse me.
Oh God, yeah.
So yeah, Mitch at the time had actually had a lot of New Mutants pages because he was representing Bill, and I had a good pick of them, but there were, I was picking based on nostalgia, right? So here's Legion kind of losing his mind and kicking Xavier out of his mind, and it reminded me with the TV show that came out on FX. This is
Rich. Sorry, man. Sorry, Nick.
No worries.
The fellow Canuck. What's up, Rich? You never show up here anymore. It's been like ages, Rich. What is up? Good to see you, man.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go. Keep continuing.
Yeah, no worries. So this is an oversized piece. I think it's more like double page splash size, or maybe even a little bit bigger. So there's a few issues where, and I have a lot of original art from this run.
Okay.
And some pages are regular size. Some pages are on, what do you call it, like duotone paper.
Yes.
And then some pages within the same issue are like triple the size or double the size, twice ups, Rich, of the regular pages. So this happens to be a really large one.
This is one of the larger ones. Yeah. Actually, so interesting. I gotta say, Carlito, what is up? Good to see you, man. Rick, very maniacal laugh. I wanted to address, don't think that I forgot you, Marcus. Don't think I forgot you. Here we go. Birth page. So the answer, I just wanted to say no. and just wanted to drop a little bit of historical knowledge, Marcus, for you, since you asked. I actually used to have the birth page of Legion. It wasn't part of my collection. Frankly, it's in my opinion, it was an ugly page. So it was part of my my dealer inventory. And let me tell you, man, I owned it in my inventory, I don't know, like at least 3 years or something. And in those 3 years, like I probably had it on my website for like, I gotta think, at least close to 2 years. And I don't know, the price was probably in those days like about $175. I mean, it's all relative, obviously. But it took forever to finally sell. Nobody cared about Sienkiewicz New Mutants back then. It was just like, whatever, yeah, you know. Yeah, but I had the actual birth page. But, you know, this is still a
in my mind, this is the coolest page with Legion on it.
Well, exactly. What matters is which is the nicest looking cool page.
Yeah.
That's the best page. So you've got the best page in that book, right? So yeah. So sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, I got lucky and I picked that one up. And again, it hit the nostalgic spot. I remember that issue very well with that page. You know.
Yeah, and can I ask you how and where did you pick that up?
Yeah, so it was one of probably, I don't know, almost, I can't even remember it, somewhere between 8 and 12 pages that I bought from Mitch directly.
Oh, that was a Mitch purchase. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, man. And you
at the time I had to make the tough call because like every one of these pages was maybe like $100, and an Electra page was more like 400, 500. Right. But I had read New Mutants more, so it hit kind of that spot a little bit more, and I tried to find the best representations from there.
Yeah, but tell me though, just so we keep, I always love to keep the timeline straight, right? It allows you to sort of place yourself, you know, in your story, you know. At this point, when you made that purchase, is this already beyond, like you've graduated university, or are we still in university here?
Yeah, so this is my first job post university with my bonus check. I ended up spending my entire bonus check buying original art.
You remember
that bonus dollar, and I just subtracted all the pages from it, and that's how I knew how much I could buy. So.
Okay, but having said that, I'm guessing, you can correct me obviously if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing first job out of, you know, post graduation, you're probably still at home with your parents.
Yes.
Yes. True. Okay. So you can afford to blow that check.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Didn't that feel good? I love those days. You know, when you started making a little money, you're still living at home. Oh yeah, man. You don't have to worry about paying any overhead. It's just like, woo.
Yeah. But that was, I told you about the Kirby Collector earlier. Like, so seeing those pages, all the different sizes, the duotone pages, you could see the last one we put up there had zip tone with bricks on them, white out, all this. Like, to me, I was just kind of like absorbing, like, how was this actually made, right? Because you're buying comic books, you're like, how the heck did they do the white space? You know, did they just kind of draw around it or whatever? So I was really like into like seeing the originals and understanding, you know, how the page was being made and how much was brush and pen and all these kinds of things.
Yeah. You were very curious, like me, from an early age about the process and how it all comes together from scratch, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally get that. Okay. And we'll speak a little bit more about process in a little bit, but why don't we touch upon another piece of art? Because I think once I interrupted you to ask if you wanted to show some art, a little bit of art. I think you had just finished mentioning John Van Fleet, right?
Yeah, John Van Fleet, North Carolina artist, known for painterly style, I guess, from the same New Jersey school as Mark Chiarello and others, Kent Williams, I think. So I think these guys are all buddies at some point. So I was in university. I had like pop back in the comic shop, buying back issues. This was a series that just came out, I think 95 or 94, whatever the number is. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, you know, a little bit more mature of a comic. Yeah. Marvel Edge didn't mean anything to me, but I was kind of like, okay, it's kind of like Epic. And I thought like, wow, painted comic, looked really cool. I really liked the style. It was more realistic looking.
Right.
And a lot of black, you know, in terms of dark space, light space. And I really enjoyed this story because maybe it was grade 7 or 6 something. I was like on a school trip and I bought those issues with N. Nocenti, John Romita Jr., Al
Yeah.
Williams,
Al
and
Williams,
Typhoid
right.
Mary was a character that I really loved in that
Me
run.
too. Yeah.
And then I saw this painted book. I was like all over it. Like, oh wow, I got to read what's this all about, right? And
Yeah. And by the
you
way,
know,
I just want to say, because you loved Typhoid Mary, back then, and I throw this out to all of you guys in the live chat. I mean, so when that came out, I think that Daredevil run was happening when I was 18, 19, something like that. And Typhoid gets introduced. I got to tell you, man, first of all, Romita Jr., that was the first series with which he suddenly had taken a huge leap away from the same drawing approach as his father had, and his first step into becoming his own artist. And so that was really exciting for me. And then the stories were fantastic. So it was like, Nocenti, what's happening here? Oh my God, like this is amazing, right? And then they introduce Typhoid Mary. I'm like, I can't be the only one who was thinking, I feel like probably those people, those comic fans were feeling a decade earlier or whatever year it was when Miller had created Elektra. I felt like this was Elektra all over again, like it was just this antagonist, female, cool, kick-ass chick, right?
Right.
I was like, oh, she's gonna be like, if they do something good with her, like she could stick around for a long time, and this will be like awesome,
Yeah, and then, combining the storyline with the Kingpin, etc., kind of like they did with Elektra. Yeah. So yeah, that was a run. Like for me, that's one of my favorite, if not the favorite, Daredevil run.
Okay.
And it was because I was collecting it live, and you're getting the feels, I guess, if you want to say, as you're reading it. You're kind of waiting for the next issue, and you have a good connection to it.
And you're loving you're loving the story of the Typhoid series, the miniseries.
I like the story of the Typhoid miniseries. I really like the Daredevil run, the original run with her.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a nice, like, hey, wait a minute, this is a throwback to what I was collecting even like 5 years earlier.
Right.
So yeah,
right. But I never read the John Van Fleet Typhoid series, which I believe it's just called Typhoid. It's not Mary. It's not called Mary.
It's Typhoid, right? And it's also by Anna Centi.
So it was. That's right. That's right. I never did read that. So I should probably try it. What is it? 4 issues, right?
4 issues, a lot of violence. I think she's like a private detective kind of thing in there, was going through all her personalities. But
I wonder if like what the masses think. What do you guys out there in the chat think? I'm curious, you guys. Any of you who read it and you remember reading it, let me know if you remember liking it, hating it, whatever, or if it was sort of okay. I'm curious because it's something that as memorable as the character was, I gotta say, nobody ever talks to me like when we have chats about comics. Nobody ever, like the topic of this John Van Fleet and the Nocenti Typhoid miniseries never comes up. Even if we're talking about the Romita Jr. Nocenti Williamson run, it never ever leads in to. And you would think it would be natural segue to lead into that, but nobody ever talks about it. So it makes me wonder. Like I always assumed it was crap because of that. It was just a natural assumption because if it was so good, why wouldn't anybody talk about it?
And I don't know if it was that great, but for me, it hit the spot with the painted art, and it was just kind of like a nice, you got the storyline, the character that I liked, the painted art was really cool.
Yeah. Chirello, Kent, they were the Pratt Institute, okay, and we include George Pratt, yeah, okay. Thank you, Kazra. And Alberto, I thought she had great potential, and I loved those stories on Daredevil. Yeah, everybody did. But yeah, she never seemed to live up to everything they could have done with her. Interesting. It's interesting. But yeah, definitely in that run, boy, she was phenomenal. But I have to admit, I don't think I ever read her again after that run.
Yeah, and there's some story. I think she was in Marvel Comics Presents, and they put her in with Wolverine and Ghost Rider.
Yes, I remember. All right.
Like then they were just kind of using the character wherever they could with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But I think the original creator, right, that knew what they meant, what they wanted out of that character.
I think they saw the potential in her, and I think with that whole Marvel Comics Presents, I think that's what they were trying to do, is popularize her by putting her in with the half and half with the Wolverine, right, issues or whatever. And but I don't think that, again, I don't think anybody cared. Like, but I was buying MCP at the time, but I have to be honest, like most comics that I read back in those days, I don't remember anything about any of the comics really, but I usually do remember what I thought about them. I remember what I felt about them. And I gotta say, with the MCP issues, with that whole Typhoid Mary storylines, I don't remember even what I thought about it. So I believe that typically means it was just kind of, it was just there and it's forgettable and you know what I mean? So yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way I could compare to that Daredevil run, which I think there was a focus story there, right?
I mean, that's the seminal thing for her, I guess, right? With her, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, they put her in the Iron Fist TV show, I think, in one of the
They
seasons.
did?
Yeah.
She must not have been memorable because I liked it.
Well, the Iron Fist show may not have been memorable either, so you never.
No, but I enjoyed all those Netflix shows. Most people don't like them; they think they're boring, but I really like them all. I enjoyed the Netflix shows more than I do the MC universe, the movies. I don't really care for the movies, because I think you do character development. So I like it that it's like episodic, But I don't remember. Maybe was it one of those things where she didn't really look like herself?
That's right. Yeah, she didn't.
Okay,
maybe one time in the mirror or something.
Oh God. Okay, that's why I don't remember.
Yeah.
That's why I don't remember. Comic Art Boston. Never apologize for being late, but thank you so much for checking in. Either way, I appreciate it as always. Thank you so much, sir. Hey, Derek. Good to see you. Always, my friend. Always. Typhoid Mary was great in the Nocenti Romita Jr. run, of course. I think she went overlooked in the late 90s after the bust, or I guess you're talking about the comic book business bust, or at least I later rediscovered her in the Deadpool Daredevil annual. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if she went overlooked, if they just didn't use her anymore. Like you say, the business was in turmoil anyways. It's not like there was many people left reading comics, from like 94 to the rest of the decade. So yeah. And Derek also dropped some knowledge. He's really great with this stuff. Says that she was a secret character in Avengers Initiative. What do you mean by secret? Though? Yeah. What do you mean by that? A secret?
She was in the Avengers Initiative. I think she was Mutant X or something. Like she had a mask or something covering her. So she had all the powers of Phoenix, I think. And so people thought it may have been Jean Grey, but it was actually Typhoid.
Oh, really? Wow, interesting. Okay. Look at that, Comic Art Boston. You come in late, you say hello, and suddenly everybody's forgetting about us and they're saying hello to you. What's shaking, Cav? Look at that. Everybody. Everybody. There we go. Okay. Derek says correct. Okay. So, yeah, there you go. Mystery of the book. Okay. Okay. So, I mean, but isn't that pointless, though, as a reader? Like, if you're a fan of the character, isn't that pointless? Because if I'm a fan of the character, well, if I'm a fan of Typhoid Mary, I want to see Typhoid Mary. I don't want to see some mystery character with a mask that doesn't look like anybody I've ever seen. Like, who cares, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that was their way of bringing her back after a hiatus of some kind and kind of reintroducing her. I don't know, but
ha ha, Alberto. But yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows, right? Yeah, okay. So, hey, why don't we take a look? Speaking of Typhoid Mary and speaking of John Van Fleet, why don't we take a look at a piece of art that you own from that series? And yeah, let me know a little bit about how you came to acquire this one. Check it out, everybody. I love this. So graphic. The graphic stylings I love it.
Yeah, fully painted. In fact, I probably own 20 or so pieces from this limited series.
Wow.
And
you really love it.
I liked it, most of it. I don't know if people remember Moth Comics. They were representing some North Carolina type artists, so I bought some from there, and then bought a lot from John himself directly.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Before buying from John, where did you buy?
Yeah, John, I think, was originally represented by Mitch as well.
Okay.
So there was some art with Mitch, and then Moth Comics took over his representation for a bit. I don't know what happened to these guys.
Whatever happened? I forgot about Moth Comics. Whatever happened to those guys? And do you remember who ran I forget the guy. I knew the guy.
Name. Yeah, I forget the name.
Yeah.
I just remember when I bought some pages, he sent me the wrong page.
Oh, really?
Which funny story, I later bought from John himself, like 15 years later.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That is funny. Wow.
But, this particular one though, I picked up on eBay. It popped up.
Oh,
Someone was selling. Someone
nice.
was selling this piece on behalf of a university student who was
Yeah.
looking to raise funds for university. I guess I bought it at a local comic show, maybe Heroes Con,
Okay.
and looking to raise some cash. So then we worked out a deal
Okay.
for eBay.
Oh, you mean off eBay?
Off of eBay, yeah.
Okay.
And the issue number one is the one I really wanted, but John told me it's actually with another artist, Christopher Muller. I don't know if you guys know Chris Muller, but sounded like that was,
the painter, Chris Muller.
That's right. Again, friends and whatever, and I gifted to him, perhaps.
What a nice guy Chris is. I was going to represent him. He was being represented by Tom Fleming from Fanfare Sports and Entertainment.
Yeah.
And then when Tom got out of the business, he put me in touch. I was friendly with Tom, and he put me in touch with Chris, and we talked it all out. Whatever. This is late 2019, and it was going to be great. We worked how he was going to ship me all the paintings and what this and that, and then COVID hit, and because of me being on the other side of the border, right? I was like, well, I it was scary to suddenly start shipping stuff, whatever, and whatever. And I just told him, you know what, man, as much as I love to work with you, what's more important to me is that you're taken care of. And because of the geographical issue with COVID making it a pain in the ass, you need somebody who can sort of help you now, and so it didn't end up working out. And it was too bad. And he was so nice. He was like, if I'm ever in town though, we should get together. Okay.
Yeah, maybe you can unlock that issue 1 cover for me,
Oh, you just want to use, that's what you're here for. You're here to use me.
I didn't even know. It's not even set up. It wasn't planted.
I'm yanking your chain. But let me jump in here. And Comic Art Boston, can you just tell me, were you referring to the Typhoid miniseries? Is this what you're talking about? Or were you talking about the Daredevil, the part of the Daredevil run where Romita Jr. and Williamson and Anna Chenti were working on the book, and they introduced Typhoid Mary? Which one are you talking about? I'm curious. And there was also somebody else. Oh, yes, there was Kazra, who I just wanted to say thank you, my friend.
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, Scott Cates. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, it feels like it's 20 years at least since I last heard of him in Moth Comics or whatever. Yeah. Kazra, out of curiosity, do you know whatever happened? Like, is it he just had other things to do and just decided to get out of comics in general, or just kind of disappeared and I'd forgotten about him completely. Yeah, for years. So interesting. And then somebody's saying, Nick, CJ, Nick, Typhoid 3, page 3. I don't know that Nick's going to remember that offhand, or unless it's because you just looked at it in his gallery that you're talking about that. But I still don't think Nick would remember by the page and issue number what page you're talking about.
Yeah, CJ, you'll have to let me know. Like I said, I have so many pages from that series. You have to let me know what's happening on that one.
Comic Art Channel, what's up? Jason came in the house. Good to see you, sir. And but they're all really nice, anyways. And so yeah, I'm sure whatever he picked, it's probably a beauty for sure. This is a very nice piece, yes. And okay, interesting. So interesting, because I never thought that you would have bothered to read something like that. Okay, and so I'm sorry, Comic Art Boston. Did you say? I don't think you mentioned. Okay, yeah, you didn't. You just mentioned when you caught it later on as a TPB. Please tell us what you thought of it. Be honest. The story. I mean, just the story. And that
would have been a trade paperback maybe from 5 years ago or so, with that collected the Marvel Comics Presents and some other things in there too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Recently?
I think that's the first time that was reprinted actually since 1995 or whatever. Whenever that series came out.
Okay. And oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear this.
That's sad.
Oh, sorry. You were told that Scott had passed away in a car accident. You know what? Oh my gosh. Now that you mention that, I'm getting like vague deja vu, not necessarily attached to Scott, but many years ago, hearing about like a conversation online came up about, hey, whatever happened to so and so, and I do remember being a dealer and somebody mentioning something about a car accident. So I'm thinking that must have been probably Scott, and then I just forgot about that. Wow, that's so sad. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for reminding us, Kazra. I appreciate it, man. Hey, what is up, Mark Fong, all the way from Singapore. Love it. It's such an international group. Love it. Thank you, my friend, for tuning in, man. I appreciate it. He's talking about the hooker page. Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that page.
3 girls by the bar, if you don't know what he means.
Yeah, I think that page was the one that he got wrong. I think I ended up with that page instead of the one that I intended to buy, but love it. So it was fine. Totally fine.
Yeah.
And then I ended up buying the page I originally intended years later.
Okay, wow. Hit by a train was what you heard. Wow. Okay, that's
Terrible.
just, yeah, that's horrific. Okay, all right. Okay, so you know what? Before we go on, let's do one more piece. Only because it fits in with what we were talking about. Why don't we show everybody the Ramita Jr. Williamson Daredevil run splash?
Yeah.
And yeah, because this fits right in. This is fantastic. Let's check this out. Check out this one, everybody. Look at that. Oh, so memorable.
Yeah, so this one, this is part of the Acts of Vengeance run, when Loki puts everybody that doesn't fight against their typical hero and pairs them up. And so Doctor Doom sends Ultron to hunt down Daredevil.
Yeah.
And, I really enjoyed this particular storyline. And I actually have quite a few pages from this particular issue. And
nice.
By the way, for those who have seen the Cap Guy, I really like title splashes and I like splashes. So, even from this run, I have a few examples. And but this one, I think was originally on Albert Moy's site years ago.
Okay.
And then ended up with a Belgian collector.
Oh.
So I bought it from the Belgian collector, along with a couple other examples from this run.
Okay.
Many years ago.
Wow. Yeah. It's funny. I again, like I was saying earlier, I don't remember the details of comics, that I honestly, even stuff I read 6 months ago, it's like in one ear, out the other. I remember it while I'm reading it. I enjoy it. And then everything gets forgotten, So I don't really remember anything from the run other than I loved it all. Can you just remind me, if you do remember, what's up with the pro America USA costume here? I don't.
Yeah.
Remember.
So this is, if you remember that run, there are a whole bunch of, I would call it like philosophical issues that Daredevil has to deal with. So in this case, he leaves New York City because Typhoid and Kingpin beat the crap out of him, I guess is the best way to say it. Yeah. So he goes out, he runs into a couple people at a ranch. This is number 9 is her name. And she's a clone designed to be the perfect spouse for rich men. So she was number 9 in that kind of cloning, and she was supposed to represent the perfect woman. Okay. I don't remember exactly why she's wearing that outfit, but so the whole thing was Ultron, who's a robot, finding his almost like Frankenstein's bride around number 9,
right?
And then him battling with whether his own humanity, and Daredevil caught in the middle of it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All this stuff, it's so long for me because I never actually. That's one of the runs I always wanted to. And I just never got around to rereading. So my only experience with it was as a monthly comic every month for those few years that it lasted, So it's been like over over 3.5 decades or whatever now at this point.
Yeah.
So for me, that's yeah. But I just remember loving it. So I'd love to read it again someday or reread it.
Yeah, and the inks by Williamson, amazing. I had the chance to meet him before he passed away, maybe 2003 or 4.
Lucky you.
Bunch of Agent Corrigan strips, and we were debating with his agent at the time or whoever was there around buying one of those, but he didn't really remember much of what he worked on. So very nice man. We had some good conversations, but we couldn't get into the details like we are now, on some of these things. But, but the inks are amazing, and even if you see the Corrigan pieces, like amazing, intricate.
Oh yeah.
And then Romita Jr., like you said, coming into his own, and then getting inked by someone like that, I think really, really cool. And then I actually had commissioned Brett Blevins on something, and I guess he told me that he and Al had shared some studio time together, and he actually ghost inked some of these pages too from that run.
Yeah. Actually, him and Mike Manley, because Brett and Mike Manley were close buddies, studio mates, and and they shared time, and they assisted Williamson. They got, like, for them, even them, when they speak about it, that time, it's like thrill of a lifetime. They talk like they're fanboys, and I mean, why wouldn't you be? Like, oh my God, the great Al Williamson, and letting me into his studio, and not only to hang out like a fanboy, but wow, he letting me, like, maybe ink his stuff, or having him ink my stuff, like, wow, Yeah.
Absolutely.
So definitely not 7 of 9 call, but I did start watching that show only because 7 of 9. But then again, I'm sure a lot of us did. The good old days. Number nine. I'm not really getting that one, CJ.
That's what Ultron says in the.
Is that what he's saying? Oh, okay.
Part,
And Comrade Boston wants to let you know that you have a very nice collection.
Thank you.
And he then follows it up by asking a question. Do you collect older pages or mainly pages from what you used to read? Good question.
Normally, I would buy or collect things that were from runs that hit some kind of, that I really remembered well or had a spot, but that doesn't mean I don't have examples from other artists or pages that are cool and good representations of the artists that I like. So I have many examples of Bill Sienkiewicz covers and things I've never read but really dig the art, or some other examples of newer art where I haven't read the storyline whatsoever, but I like the art, or I like the artist, and it's a good example of what they had. But I would say most of the time when I really kind of want to dig in, it's something that is a bit nostalgic, and then kind of hits a spot. And the danger to that is then you want every piece, right? So then you got to be very meticulous about which example makes the most sense. But this is how you end up with 20 pages from a Typhoid run, right?
Yeah. Hey, nothing wrong with collecting quantity. Don't ever let anybody use that bullshit line of it's better to have quality than quantity, because it makes that makes the assumption that just because you have quantity, that it's garbage, and that only something with high and expensive priced or whatever, only that could possibly be great quality. No. There's nothing wrong with quantity especially if you love it. That's all that matters,
Right.
And so not only that, Comic Art Boston, but I also would like to let you know that Nick is also, he likes, like anybody else, right? Like all of us to some extent are all about the nostalgia for our youth and what we read in our youth. But he's got some artistic bone with him inside of him. And so you will see, that's why with things like John Van Fleet's Typhoid, that, Bill Sienkiewicz, these guys are what I've always described as artists. Guys who are more, traditionally illustrators, right? Who came into comics, right? And brought illustration from outside the comics world and infused it with comic book illustration. And because of that, Nick also got interested himself, like he was mentioning earlier, he's all about the process and how wanting to know how everything is made. How did you do this? How did this artist do this and that? And how do you get this effect? And so, Nick, do you want to sort of get into that aspect of your life and see where that sort of takes us?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, looking back, I've drawn from an early age. So still looking at kindergarten drawings, like Luke Skywalker or Captain America, all these kinds of examples. And so I would draw through as a hobby in general, mostly from realism and
Yeah? Like when you say realism, do you mean life or photographs of life?
Either.
Okay.
Like I've always had kind of an eye for likeness in
Okay.
terms of so whether that's landscape live or whether that's people live.
Okay.
And so growing up in school, taking art class, and you know, really into the comic stuff, which my art teacher would always be like, "Comics is an art."
Oh, you had
not to you, but to me, yes, you know.
Yeah, you had one of those nose up in the air. Fine art is art, but anything else is not art. Basically, teachers, right?
Yeah. Those are drawings, but that's not art. But I also had a really good grade 9 art teacher that was very supportive of that, and I drew lots of comics through high school and in the background, and just do it for fun. And almost emulating some of the way that things are inked, like Klaus Janssen and Bill and some others, and just kind of mixing around and playing with stuff. But back then, like, I didn't know many of the tools. It would just be like ink pens and markers, and then in our class using like quill pen and then a brush and these kinds of things, just kind of playing around with those things. And inspired by the comic stuff, also maybe just with the talent and kind of just interest in drawing in general, like drawing pictures of Guy Lafleur and Wayne Gretzky.
Guy Lafleur.
Yeah, he's by the way, he's my hockey hero.
Who? Guy Lafleur?
Yeah.
What happened to Daryl Sittler? What
happened to Daryl Sittler?
Oh wow! Oh my God, Guy Lafleur! Come on, you're in the wrong province, my friend.
Up there too. But I mean, I grew up. I mean, the Habs when I was young, right? That was the team before the Oilers, you know.
Wow. Okay, because again, you're in the wrong province. I don't know.
I'm in the wrong province, but we also had Rick Vive and Daryl and Wolf Paymont and whatever.
That's funny.
So anyway, drawing that kind of stuff, or my friends would be like, "Hey, draw me this, draw me that," you know. Always drawing all the way through school, doing a little bit of comic stuff. And then I went to university, still, doing some drawing stuff in the background, but I went to university for science. So I finished the biochem degree. And
so it's biochemistry is your degree, right? Yeah.
That's my degree, yeah. So science. So I'm kind of like middle brained. There's a creative aspect and then there's a little bit of a scientific aspect. So anyway, I'd always keep this as a hobby, right? I really enjoyed it. It was my way to kind of do stuff, whether it was reading comics, drawing stuff. And then when I finished, I actually I just said, you know what, I'm working on my first job. Why not just take a class at the local college on comic drawing? So I went and joined a class. I think Ron Boyd was the prof. I don't know if you know Ron Boyd. He was an inker for DC at some time.
Boyd?
That's right. Yeah. So he was running a course there, and basically the course was really around learning more about how comics are made, and it was very, very cool. Combined with the Kirby collector stuff we were talking about earlier, really learning the techniques of storytelling and how things are made, looking at other artists. I think around that time was also Alex Ross and the Kingdom Come, and so examples of painted art and stuff like that. We looked at all these things within class, and then we had to do an actual comic book.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to kind of ask something that comes before. I'd like to know, at this stage, when you're taking this course, how would you describe your own artistic level? In other words, can you draw figures out of your head, and can you draw them well, or like, you know what I mean? Because it's such a jump to like draw from life and learn how to draw from life, but then having to this idea of getting into comics where you got to know how to draw everything and from every different angle, right? And it's so much more. And so I'm just curious what level you already were when you decided to take that course.
Yeah, I would say basics of storytelling, like basics, and then
so you already had the ability to storytell to some degree.
Yeah, because I was drawing comics throughout like high school or whatever, right? And kind of copying, emulating the styles and different ways of doing things. But I think the course really kind of, studying Alex Toth and Eisner and other things, you got deeper into like these OGs,
You were smart though. At least see that was the thing. You got into at least if you're gonna copy artists, which a lot of wannabe artists will do, you were copying the right guys at least, right? Like you hear it a lot from everybody, right? You draw from life, it's the best. You'll learn better than anything if you just draw from life over and over and over. But if you're going to start copying and examining other comic book work, at least you were certainly choosing the right guys. A lot of people don't copy the right guys, and then it exacerbates their already, problematic issues. So you know what I mean.
And so it kind of forced to create a comic a little bit, I would say, more advanced than what I was doing before, and that's what we were graded on. Had a lot of fun.
By comic, do you mean like a couple of pages though, or like how much?
It's probably somewhere 5 to 8 pages, something like this. It's sequential storytelling.
Okay.
Enough to create a portfolio, right? That was the intent. Is like you do the course and you create a portfolio. Yeah.
Thanks, Rich.
Yeah. Thanks. So it was that intent, and then it was more around like, hey, why not? I have spare time, right? So I was working full time, and doing this in the evenings and doing this for fun, and then you take I took those to like a convention circuit, talked to some people to say, what do you think of this or that? And I think the most honest person with me and was Yannick Paquette. I don't know how many of you guys know Yannick, but he's also a Canadian artist out of
Everybody knows Yannick Paquette, trust me.
Yeah. And so he was, I don't know if you guys have ever sat through a portfolio review with him, but like he's like the shredder is kind of what I would say. Like he's very honest, and I think it's because people are honest with him, and I think
that's fantastic. You need guys like that because all the other guys are too kind-hearted, they don't have the heart to tell you the truth, right? And that doesn't help you. That's unfortunate, but that's the reality. Is when you're getting it's pretty good, keep at it, but really in their heads they're like, oh god, this is horrible. You know what I mean? That's not helping anybody, right? It doesn't help you.
Or some refuse to even look at it at the time, but I would say he was very constructive and saw there was an interest, and I saw people getting ripped ahead of me and people getting ripped behind me. He's like, why don't you go buy an IKEA catalog and actually figure out how to draw furniture, like that kind of stuff. You need to know every things in the panels.
Is that what he was saying to some of them?
Oh, yeah. I was loving it, man. I was like, well, this guy's like, he's like, have you ever seen a chair before? Do you sit in chairs? That kind of stuff. But anyway, he was very, very supportive, gave a lot of good advice, and what I did was take that advice back and then continue to kind of refine and whatever. And then when I came back, he was actually super supportive and took some examples back. And then at the time, I think there was 88 Mile Per Hour Studios or something out of Montreal.
Oh, that sounds familiar. I remember.
They had the license to Ghostbusters and some other things.
Oh, I was gonna say, wasn't that those two Asian brothers, the Lee brothers? Was that it? Like,
I think those guys had G.I. Joe or something. I can't remember. Right. I don't know, but there's like some localized licensing for things, and I think they had the rights, or they got the license to Underworld, and so Yannick was kind enough to put some of the art in front of these guys, and that. At the time, Sony was looking for people who were very similar to John Van Fleet, like a realistic style.
Okay.
That ended up, I think Sony ended up moving that to IDW, and that ended up being the first kind of professional gig on illustration. And this happens to be the limited series that came out after the original movie adaptation.
Okay.
That was interesting. The movie adaptation was in 2003. I think the limited series came out in 2004. And because it was a movie adaptation, the likeness of every character had to be improved on every page. And every actor had a say, or at least the top actors in that film had a say. And we weren't able to watch the movie ahead of time. So we had a bunch of stills to work from. I think we did a pretty good job capturing the spirit of the movie. And Rich, he was at Sheridan College out in Oakville is where I took that class.
Rich is very familiar with Sheridan, for sure.
So that's Underworld, and the movie came out, and did a little bit of work there with IDW. And it was interesting because this is where the editor,
by the way, TJ is saying this is the guy I was thinking of, Pat Lee at Devil's Due. Is that?
Devil's Due had the G.I. Joe license, I think, for a bit. Maybe that was somebody else too. I'm not sure, but it was Pat Lee.
I thought I thought Pat Lee. Yes, that's why I said Lee Brothers, because I think he had a brother that also did some art with him or whatever. But I thought those guys were based out of Toronto. No,
those guys were. Yeah.
Oh,
Devil's
okay.
Due, I think, was out of Chicago. I think it was a different group that also ended up with, licenses. And so I think these guys, everything was bouncing around back then before IDW consolidated a few of these. But we worked with a great editor, and had to make sure, page a day, send the thumbnails ahead of time of what you're planning to draw, so the editor could approve it.
Yeah.
And really, you only get paid when you send in the pages, right? So it really kind of drove that, the work ethic, making sure the pages were out. And thanks, Kazra, the Impaler as well, which came out after that, and then for Image Comics. But the page a day, working with the editors, we had a great time. Like I said, maybe we only had to change 1 or 2 images on likenesses, and it wasn't. Yes, that's right, with Nick Marinkovich. Kate Beckinsale never had any issues when I was drawing her, but I was very, focused on making sure it looked like her. It was some of the other guys that would be like, "Oh, can you rework this or rework that?" But not too much. So it turned out to be a good experience, and led to a larger portfolio to get more work, right? So, you can see here the pencils, which were then ultimately inked and then computer colored here. You can see in the background.
Yeah, and on this so even on this cover, is that Nick doing the inks for you, or how are you guys working?
I think it looks like his inks. Sometimes I would ink, sometimes he would ink. So I can't remember exactly. In this case, I think it's him based on what I'm seeing here, and then he did the colors. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. It was him doing the colors as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, using Photoshop and
Yeah,
and other tools, different textures and things like that. Like he's really, really good at the Photoshop piece, and a lot of it was actually really good collaboration, because sometimes I could draw the most simplest thing for time sakes, and he would kind of finish it up and do his thing. And sometimes I would go really detailed and I would do the inking, and then he would touch it up with the colors or whatever. And so it was very collaborative, and it really was about the deadline. Like, who could do it? How could we do this together the fastest to make sure that we both get paid and that the book comes out on time?
Yeah.
And I think most people don't like the churn behind the scenes. Like, sometimes you don't get the script on time, and then you still have the same deadline, and then the editors are looking to, there's a whole business aspect to making it work, and you want to have a reputation where, you're hitting your deadlines, and the quality of the work is good, and you want to continue to build on that, right? So it's very important for us to be successful and kind of work through that book, especially with being the first professional gig. We had some other stuff printed in other books kind of in the meantime. I can't even remember. A couple pages here, a couple pages there, all just building portfolio.
Can I ask you, I'm sure some of the guys would like to know as well, how did you and Nick's collaboration or collaborative efforts come to be? Is it just you knew each other already?
Yeah, I mean, we knew each other for a very long time. He drew, I drew. He ended up taking the course after I took the course. Maybe I recommended it to him. I don't remember exactly, for him to kind of understand that. We finished, I think, university 1 year apart or something like that. So it was maybe like 1 year. And we knew each other, and we knew the work really well, and we just played around. Like, before we even got any gigs, I would pencil something and I'd give it to him, and he'd bring it back inked or painted. And vice versa. He would give it to me and I would ink his stuff. And so it was very much like an open, like, hey, change it up how you want, do your thing. And I think it was good in that way, because we both had a lot of creative say in the way that the work was being done, and ultimately we could also adapt to the deadlines appropriately, right? Because we were both able to kind of work through the different aspects. If he was really digging into coloring 3 or 4 pages, I could be doing the inking, on a few pages in the interim, right? So
that makes sense for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Okay, cool. We have another piece of art to show that.
So I guess from this book came.
What year? Remind me. Sorry, let me put that up one last time for everybody. Let me show this.
So 2004. Was 2003. This was 2004. Okay. There was some fill-in kind of stuff here and there in 2005.
Okay. And your first published thing was what exactly? What issue?
It was the Underworld movie adaptation, 2000.
Oh, the adaptation. Okay.
Yeah, which came with the DVD, which is kind of cool too. They shrunk it down, and They put it with the DVD, so got copies of that, plus the book and the collected edition that collected the miniseries as well that went after it.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And yeah, it was very cool. And Ideally, it was really cool to work with. You know, they were kind of a startup. You know, it was, you know, not a big group at that time. And our editor moved out from there. And then, you know, your editors are the most important. You lose an editor, and it becomes very difficult to try to convince the next person to get some work.
Exactly.
But in 2005, we kind of jumped into Image. So now you've got some examples that you can put in front of Image Publishing and some other publishers. And we did a book called Impaler. I think there was another one that Nick was working on called Night Wolf or something. And so I was helping him do the covers on that, but doing the interiors on Impaler, and he was doing the interiors on that one. So we got like super busy at the same time, like just doing all these things. Plus I was working full time. In the time too, right? So this is like I was the Night Wolf, I guess, if you want to say it that way, in terms of you know, you do that, and then you come home and you do the next thing. And
you were busy using your biochem degree during the day, and then coming home at night and getting to work on your panel to panel.
Yeah, the hobby that became a profession in some way. You know, it became So, and it was a lot of fun. And yeah, we did Impaler, which Image picked up. I think we did 4 of the 6 issues there. And a story about Vlad the Impaler coming back to save the world rather than being the villain. And had a lot of fun doing that. But the goal was always like, can we get some gigs with Marvel, right? Like, how do we get to Marvel? And so in 2005, we had some, and yes, MODOK. They were a lot of fun, Kazra, let me tell you. Doing MODOK and going wild with MODOK commissions, amazing. In 2005, we'd gone to the Comic-Con in San Diego, and by then we had a few examples of we already published artists, so you can get into the convention. We brought some example, like the actual issues. And then we brought in 5 pages of Impaler to get the gig with Image, because we had an interview with Image at the time.
Right.
And yes, Comic Car Boston. Yes, I am from Toronto, the Toronto area, and I'm still in the Toronto area, but travel quite frequently to the US for work and also just for fun. So we'd gone to this convention. We got some books in hand, which are kind of key to show that you're published and, you know, you're a professional, you can do things on time. And then we had the new book, which we were pitching at the time. And they were like, oh man, Marvel's doing portfolio reviews. And
at the San Diego?
At the San Diego Con, right? Because all the big publishers, I don't think DC was, but definitely Marvel was. Right. I think maybe a couple others were. But we had private meetings with Image and a couple other of the smaller, I don't know, Dark Horse and maybe one more. On that book. But then we were also trying to can we get in with Marvel, because reading Marvel comics as childhood dream, can we work with Marvel? So we get in there, I think the second day of the convention, and that list was already packed. They're doing interviews, they've got editors there, and that list is full.
Oh, for the reviews.
For the reviews. And it was an actual interview, right? You can actually sit down and look through the portfolio. We had prepped our portfolios, I guess, full of material, things that were published, things that were Marvel specific. I think there was a nice Captain America MODOK in there, if I remember correctly, Kazra. We were like, what do we do? And my cousin was with us. And I don't know if you guys know, these conventions, you have those volunteers and long lines and everything. And basically we bribed them. We paid them to give us the next spot in the interview with Marvel. So basically, we're like, the volunteer who's running the
volunteer.
So he's like, when I ask you, you're this person, and when I call that person, you guys are next. And maybe he picked somebody who wasn't there or was a no-show or whatever. So we basically paid him at that show. We paid off everybody to get in every line. It was, sorry to say it, guys, but
so you paid him how much?
Maybe $50 max, maybe less, somewhere between.
I mean, as a volunteer for him, that's a fortune.
Volunteer, that's money in the pocket for a Stanley autograph at that time, right? So
yeah.
So anyway, he hooked us up and actually got us in front of the Marvel editors immediately, which was a surprise, and we were good to go. And the guy ahead of us, we were like, oh man, is this the interview? He's sitting there in jogging pants with unkempt hair and an unkempt beard and showing his stuff. And we're like, oh my God, he's interviewing with Marvel, and we're dressed up kind of for a job interview.
Yeah.
But anyway, that interview actually got us our first gig with Marvel.
Wow.
And it was with the editor, the editors. I think it was Mark Grunwald's daughter. I think she's an editor for trade paperbacks. And there was another woman who gave us the first work, which is Nicole Booth. I don't think she worked for Marvel after the gig that we had. Like, I think she had left just after the work. And the first foot in the door with Marvel was actually around their commercial.
Was Mark's daughter? Is that Jennifer Grunwald?
That's right. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Okay.
So we interviewed with the two of them, but left them with some samples and.
But when you did the was it more of just an interview, or did they also sort of give you comments on the art right there, or no?
Yeah, it was absolutely. It wasn't as harsh as Yannick Paquette.
No.
But yes, it was. Looking through the portfolio. Excuse me. You could see what they were really into, what they weren't into.
Okay.
They asked some questions. They were asking things like, "Can you do a page a day? Can you, how does the process work?" And not just about the art, but like, how do you actually do this, and how long can you take, and how long did your previous work take, and how do you, could you do?
I'm telling you, yeah, it's all about the time, dude.
It's a job interview. It was a job interview. That's why I was saying the guy ahead of us, I don't think he treated it like a job interview, right? He just kind of went in. It was, like Jack Black. He looked like Jack Black, just kind of casually throwing his stuff out there. So I think it was legit for us, and led to the first gig. He was in their commercial division, so it wasn't related to
comic books.
It was, well, the characters, yes, but not the published issue, right? So the first work was related to a collaboration with Chrysler for Dodge Caliber, and Fantastic Four and the Hulk, and it was a published web comic, which was animated, which was kind of cool. So it was like a lot of animated stills, a lot of work, because you have to draw every single character. Then they had to interact and move and all these kinds of things. And Nick did a really great job of kind of consolidating that in the right software, and actually ended up winning a Webby Award.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
For like online advertising or whatever, which was really cool.
That's really cool.
But it put the foot in the door with Marvel. But in the background, we were trying to get work with other Marvel editors, like C.B. Sobalski, who's now editor-in-chief, and these guys all had samples of work, and they were all kind of doing their thing in the background, and were really, really helpful on the published side, right? So, it's interesting that each editor, you got to kind of convince each one, because they're the hiring manager. They're, they all have their own responsibilities, what one likes and what other ones don't like, and so, in the background, CB was kind of pushing things forward, and he really liked our stuff, and we stayed in touch with him. And I talked to him every once in a while, and he was putting it in front of other editors, right, in terms of who could provide work, which led to, along with my own reaching out, which led to work that I did with Marvel, which I think you're going to pull up, which was around the Secret Invasion storyline, which I think they're making into a TV show coming up on Disney. And this one was their first digital comic, which later was published in a trade paperback. And it was a spin-off. And I think this series also had a TV commercial, first TV commercial since that original G.I. Joe commercial.
Oh, wow.
And basically it was an online every day a new page came out in the storyline. So when you think about the timeline and the amount of work, super aggressive. And I was doing the pencils and inks on this one. And then the colors were done by Chris Sotomayor.
Okay.
At least for most of the run, and I think somebody else colored the second half of the run. And I was working with John Barber, who ended up going to IDW after this series, I think, as the editor. And I got this gig, but funny enough, I think there was another book that they were looking to put us on, but then that editor left Marvel, and then they canned that series actually. So we had to wait a little bit longer until until I was able to pick this up. So. And then you can see examples on the first page. There's pencils, and then the second page is inks, and then ultimately what the comic looked like in color. And lots of cool characters. I think the New Avengers were in this series. A lot of Skrulls and Super Skrulls. I got a chance to draw Sasquatch and
nice
the 1980s Miss Marvel. I don't know what she's called now, Photon or something.
The one,
Monica Rambeau. That's in that.
Oh, Monica Rambeau
series, yeah. And the Marauders from the X-Men series, like or Skrulls that took the powers of the Marauders, and lots of little takes. I think there's even one Skrull that was like a Rob Liefeld matchup, so it looked kind of like some of the characters he created in New Mutants. So there were lots of patches and swords and all these kinds of things. So
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, Nick, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Of course, as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah.
Please hit the thumbs up, everybody. Please. Thank you.
So I think this was, I think it ended up being like 8 web comics, some 10 months of work. Lots of.
That's what I was. That's what I was gonna ask. How long? Like, so on this one, what kind of it was digital, so not quite the same as published on paper. What kind of deadlines did it give you to do this? In other words, how much did they tell you had to do every so often? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, so like I said, 1 page came out every day for that.
Oh, you mean online?
Online.
Oh, online. They wanted
to
put
the very first webcomic. This is the very first webcomic as Marvel was entering digital comics.
Oh, okay.
They ever did.
That was it.
It was a page a day.
Okay.
And I would say it's great when things work great and you have a script, but by the end of it, I think Ivan, who's doing the story, was working on other things. I was working on stuff. So it just, the timeline became very condensed in terms, and you try your best to maintain the quality of work. And it's interesting when these particular pages, I remember distinctly reading or looking at George Zaffino's work.
Jorge, yeah,
Argentinian artist, and really looking at how he was doing inks. And so even as I started that series to kind of when I finished the series, different use of blacks and whites and kind of. So I remember that distinctly as I was working on it. I was reading, all the Terror ink and the Punisher graphic
novel. Yeah.
And so some of it escaped into this.
Out of curiosity, have you familiarized yourself at all with Zaffino Jr.'s work, his son?
I've met him, and I know I purchased one of his, one cover. I think it's in the CAF gallery. It's a Nam cover with the Punisher.
Oh, right.
Run. And I talked to him about it because it actually came from his collection.
Okay.
Yeah. We worked with the gentleman from Edmonton or Calgary. I can't remember. I don't know who's representing him now. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, right. The Cam from Inky Knuckles, I think.
Cam, that's it. Yes, Cam.
Yeah. Exactly. Thanks, Rich. Yes, Gerardo Zaffino. Yeah. I've left comments on people on CAF, with their Zaffino Jr. pieces, and in the last probably the last couple of pieces that I left comments on, I felt obligated to say as part of my comment that at this point I honestly feel like the son has surpassed even the father, and his father was great, but I really think that the son is even better.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of great work.
Yeah,
a lot of great work.
Yeah.
Very, very nice guy.
Yeah,
and I'm happy to have an example. But yeah, it was to your point, Rich. It was a lot of work, especially working during the day and then cranking out 2 or 3 pages every night to stay ahead. You could see even on the pencils, I kept them very simple, and I did most of the work in the inking.
And the inks. That's what I wanted to bring that back because I was waiting for my opportunity to say exactly that. I'm like, hold on. So I'm like, yeah, I gotta wait for my opportunity here and ask him if he really wanted to go in straight with the inks on most of it because he was probably on
whatever I could do with the inks right off the bat. I was trying. Yeah. I tried to keep it very simple line art.
Yeah.
Just like rough figures, and in my mind, I kind of knew what I wanted to do with the inks, and I went from there. And I will say I'm not a master of Photoshop, but in that series, I was doing quite a bit of learning myself on Photoshop and tweaking things and pages, knowing it was going online, right? Like you have to be super straight. And wherever I could use a logo, I was reusing the logo and all these kinds of things. But you're right, digital saves supposed to. Yeah, it saved me time for sure. I was just uploading pages to the server as they were done and hoping for no comments on reworks because as you're doing 2 or 3 pages a day, you don't want to have to go back to the same ones. You want to stay ahead, right? And so I was proud of that, being able to crank that out. With Marvel and it would, like I said, most of the advocates, the editors I worked with ended up moving to other places, and then it became a spot where I was kind of like really burnt out from that schedule and doing the work. I was like, I need to take a break, and while I took the break, all my editors left from everywhere. So the next opportunity I had was actually with DC, and I sat in front of one of the editors there, but I didn't have the willpower to to really push it. He had asked to do some Batman stuff, which I think would have ultimately gone in Batman Black and White. And I was just like, had no energy. I was like,
oh, you're burned out, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate because I would have loved to have had a DC gig just to say I did that too. But
yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess. Well, at that point, were you with your now wife, or what was your life situation?
So I finished this, and I said I need to take a break. I wanted to just hang out and do, like, you think about it, like for 10 months straight, it was work and work.
Yeah,
and Red Bull and maybe a bit of basketball or something. I don't know, just to kind of
every now and then a 10-minute nap, right? Like power nap.
Yeah, exactly. So then I decided to kind of relax. I'd met my now wife in that time period, and
that's when it happened. Okay.
Yeah, and then kind of life got in, and then, like I said, I had some opportunities with DC and other things where we were kind of chatting back and forth. My other editors moved out, and I think at that time also DC was moving to the West Coast, and Marvel, like, I don't know, with all the Disney stuff, because Disney had acquired them while I was making this series or working on this series, and that kind of just changed a whole bunch of dynamic. And then I was like, things had gotten really good at the work I was doing during the day, so I actually had a kind of a thinking through, is like, okay, cost benefit analysis, like, where do I want to put my energy? And I said, look, this was always a hobby for me, and I still draw in the background. I do commission work once in a while just to kind of stay active. My son really loves to draw, so I think him. And I just said, like, I'll always be able to do this. I always have this in the background. And then I focused on that. And so this was the last series that I actually kind of, the trade paperback came out. I think I did one or two other things.
Okay.
Kind of small things, and then that was it.
And that was kind of the
end. Kind of retired from that, like, formally, and just kind of focused, and then went back into collecting art, which kind of like, or continued to collect art through the whole thing. As I was going to conventions or meeting artists, I was buying their work, or, they were sitting beside me at the convention and we were gifting each other stuff. And so that, you get to meet a lot of cool creators, a lot of good stories, a lot of hangouts.
I can imagine.
Which, great experiences with great artists. I remember sitting with Paul Pope. He took us back to his hotel. He had a stack of art that no one had ever seen before, massive stuff. And just being like, wow, like, getting that kind of stuff in front of you, where it's a different experience than maybe if you're a fan of the show and you're just seeing what's in a portfolio or whatever.
Yeah.
Really, understanding the artists, hanging with the artists, a deeper kind of thing, which I'll always, I'll always value that, from the work that I did, but also, like, all the great people I met and all the great editors and all these people who were encouraging and gave the work and all that kind of stuff. Like, it takes a lot of people. When people say, how do you get into this? It takes a lot of people to support you. You need to do the work. You need to have the discipline. And then you need people who actually believe or like your stuff that can advocate for you. Right. And it's like anything, right?
Of course. Yeah, there's absolutely, you need people in your corner it's like in any field, in that sense, right? It's like, because you could be talented, you could have all the skill, you could be pro ready, and still struggle if you don't know the right editors, if your stuff doesn't get in front of the right face or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
or you're not meeting your deadlines, or you're tough to deal with, or you're like, whatever. And then the fans, like, people were amazing, like, buying books and supporting, and we don't forget about that piece. Your book has to sell to be able to get you more work, right? So
exactly. That's absolutely. I mean, it's for sure. But look, that's why throughout history in this industry, you read interviews about the guys who were around from the 40s, you read interviews from the guys today and everybody in between who worked in between, right? From in the last 80 years, there's one thing you'll find in common that they all say in interviews at some point, which is, a lot of them used to kid around and joke around with, or only half jokingly saying, well, if you want to make money, just don't get into comics,
Right.
But yeah, because it says a lot about how much work it is. The deadlines are killer to always have to meet that deadline.
Gig to gig, unless you get the full contract, you're gig to gig, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, freelancing is just, I used to think, oh, freelance is great. Oh, wow. Like, you could work for both companies at the same time or back and forth, whatever, until I began to speak to artists who, when exclusive contracts became a thing, 20 whatever years ago. And then I started speaking to some artists, and they kind of reveal like, yeah, that's great and all, but it's even greater knowing that I don't have to scramble while I'm finishing a job to look for my next job. Right. And it's like, I'd rather stick with one company knowing that they're going to guarantee me a page a day, and I'll just do the work and I can focus on that. And, so I totally get it from
yeah. By the time, like I said, this was the first digital comic, and even the comic work itself was becoming more digital. And honestly, I just didn't have the time and effort to learn that part really well with everything else that was going on. So it was like, if I wanted that next gig, and then, I'd have to put more effort to try to get that next piece and be really good at it. Right. So it was kind of like the right time, I think, from that perspective as well.
Right.
Even when I was talking to Yannick, like he had switched over to digital inking and was inking his own stuff on the tablet, just because of speed. Right. It's the return on investment was much higher, but to be successful, it's all about the time and how many pages you could turn around at high quality. And, that's an aspect that I think the current artists probably much more adept than at the time that I was working. So,
well, you'd be surprised, Nick. There's a lot of guys who still cannot do more than 3 issues without needing to be filled in for. I mean, it's just, that's a whole other thing I don't want to get into. Before I get to we'll continue the story. If you don't mind, I just want to take a minute to say thank you as always, Nick Barucci, for rallying the likes. I appreciate it, everyone. Yeah, please, thank you. If you don't mind hitting that thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. And if you're watching this, I haven't said this in a while. If you're watching this and it's your first time, especially if you're on Rewind, you're just coming across this and you're hearing these words, I would ask you that if you are enjoying it enough that you think you'd be back. I'm only on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. If you think you'd be back, I would actually ask you to please consider subscribing. However, if you don't think you'll ever be back again, then I actually, unlike most YouTubers, will say, please do not subscribe. You don't need to subscribe. I'm trying to build a channel. It's slow, yes, but a channel, one of the rare channels on YouTube where a good percentage of my subscribers are also viewers. So I don't want to have thousands of subscribers when, my viewership still remains at a few hundred or whatever.
Hey guys, don't let me down. Like, I want to be invited back by Ruben. So if you're liking the episode, let's make this one the highest rated one so that he invites me back. Otherwise, I'm going to be with him next in the summertime, and he's going to be like, this was a disaster. So
look what you did to me, Nick.
Yeah.
You sank my ratings. But real quick, everybody, for those of you, just a reminder, those of you watching, most of you already know, of course, but anybody new tuning in for the first time, if you're into buying art, you're into collecting art, check out Nick's show on the EXP. Here, let me pop up the URL first. That's youtube.com/the-exp. That's Nick Barucci's show. And let me put up the banner ad. Here we go. It's Fridays at 7 p.m. every week, Friday at 7 Eastern. And there's the handsome devil himself, as always. And that's 4 o'clock Pacific. And it's a fun show. It's usually about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes long. And we all, and I say we because myself and, all my buddies here in the live chat on my show are typically, a lot of us are over at Nick's show on Fridays. And it's just a fun time. Great way to end your work week. It's relaxing. Great way to just kick back and have a good time. We joke around just like we do on here on all of my Sunday night shows. Shoot the shit. Just have a good time in general. And at the same time, with Nick, you can buy art. So there you go. Check it out. Like I said, every Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. So there you go. And let me jump back into the chat real quick because suddenly I saw a ton of comments pop in. And I don't want to miss him. You guys know I really appreciate you all and see you as part of the show, as much a part of my shows as all myself and my guests are here, man. It's all a way for all of us to come and hang out together. And I want everybody in the chat to understand that you guys, I want you guys to have as much say in what we're talking about. as I do, even though audio wise I can't hear you, but I want you to know I still see you and hear you. All right. So yeah, let me see. I was CJ says Ruben wants quality over quantity. Yeah, with the subscribers. That's right. That's exactly right. Everyone has to wear red pants and dance to get the subs to tune in to the subscribers. Marcus, I guess I'm just going to continue to get like 2 subscribers per week on average, whatever. I'll do what I have to do. You're very welcome, Nick. Thank you as always. I appreciate it, man. Marcus, let a sleeping Ruben lie. Do not disturb or poke. That's true. I can get angry with the best of them, but no, not on this show. Next Friday show is the blast. Yes, exactly. EXP equals quantities of quality. There we go. A lot of thank yous. Next shows are really fantastic. A lot of heart into it too. Yes, very much. And it's a great welcoming community for newer viewers as well. Yes, and I hope, I that's another thing that I've tried to make my channel as well, is welcoming to new collectors as well, by also inviting very new collectors on in the studio with me and doing show and tells or hangouts with them. Because I want you newer guys to understand that it's all about everybody. It's not just about, showcasing 25-year veteran collectors and their multi-million dollar collections. Like, I'm interested in a broad cross section of collectors and all of us getting to know each other. That's basically what it's all about, right? And having fun. And that all falls into the whole aspect of that topic I've brought up on many occasions about, if you have a chance, attend those collector gatherings that people, if you hear about them, because that's how Nick and I know each other, and that's the way we get to see each other every year. So yeah, so that's it. Whether you're new or a veteran, you should never feel intimidated by that type of thing. Even if you're shy, show up. Stay quiet if you have to, but show up. Why not? So yeah, so there you go. So no, we're good with the comments. Yeah, Nick, why don't we hop over, since we're approaching the 2-hour mark? Why don't we hop over and move on to the next piece, which we move away from your own illustration, of course, your own art that you produced, and move back to your collecting days.
Yeah. Like I said, I was collecting the entire time.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I love this, and I know you've got more than one. So you guys, by the way, if you want to see, not that Nick doesn't have a lot of his collection on calf, but there is obviously more there than I'm showing tonight. If you want to see more splashes of what I'm about to show you, you definitely should use the link right down below in the description. It takes you right to his calf gallery. And yeah, check this out. Love it, love it, love it. Tell me about this, man.
Yeah, so while I was working on that Secret Invasion series, this series was coming out as well with Tommy Lee Edwards, and it was based in the Secret Wars time period of the 80s. So I think the intent here is this child kind of walks in and encounters the heroes during the Secret Wars time. And I was really loving the Tommy Lee Edwards work. I'd met him at many shows along with Jean-Paul Léon.
Okay.
And, both rest in peace, JPL, but both very cool guys, and I really liked the work, and I had some examples from this series. And I remember when I was showing this page to my editor, he's like, "I'm paying you too much. Like, how are you buying this original art?" Because I showed him the pages that I bought, like, because he was also the editor on this book.
Okay.
And he's like, "How the heck did you buy these? You're getting paid too much." And we had a good laugh over some beers, but really enjoyed this. This actually ended up being the alternate cover, or the variant cover, for issue 1 as well. And one example of a splash from the series, and you could see, I guess, between John Van Fleet and even Bill to some perspective, to some extent, and then here, like, really the use of blacks and whites, dark, with the stuff that I was doing. Really dig that kind of art. So
yeah, I love the uplighting. I just love how he spotted the blocks. Everything's beautifully balanced, nice and cohesive. I mean, it's just, the composition's lovely. That's I really love, speaking of composition, I love the part of it which is the tree trunks and the way it's almost like this zigzag pattern. You know, with the, I mean, if you're looking from the one at the top on the right, in the top right quadrant, you know, and it brings your eye down, but then your eye goes back up to the left with the other branches, and then back down to that bottom corner right behind the boy. I mean, I just love that. I just love that.
Yeah, and maybe I could share a funny story or not. I don't know if I'm allowed to, but this series was actually meant to be a photographed series.
Oh,
so this issue, I don't know how it exists or what, but it was by photo. So this child was shining a flashlight in the photo towards the Hulk's crotch, and it was like, I don't know how they did the photos, whether it was an actor or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it wasn't turning out how Marvel wanted, and they booked Tommy Lee to do the book traditionally.
Oh.
I don't know if you remember those kind of like
the Fumetti
stuff that Marvel did like a long time ago. But that's what this series was intended to be, I believe.
Okay, yeah. So they were they actually wanted to do it as a Fumetti book. That's I just, that's so crazy. Like I think they did the right decision by not doing that, scrapping that idea.
I think so too. Yeah. Especially having seen some examples from that, and then how it actually turned out, which I thought turned out great.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, no, I honestly can say, even had I been collecting, I would never have picked up a photographed book. Like that's not art. Like whatever. Like obviously photography is art, but you know what I mean. Like a comic book, no, thank you. Like just draw.
And I don't know if it's because they were experimenting with the digital aspect in that time period. You know, obviously the book I was working on was digital. Maybe they were trying to see how things worked out, but at the end of the day, I think they just said, let's go with what we know. And I think it turned out better.
Yeah, no, for sure, and it's beautiful. And so yeah, what can you tell me about this next piece? Because it's from the same series, obviously from Tommy Lee, and it's really kick-ass.
Yeah, it's got all the Secret Wars characters, maybe with a couple. I think Giant Man's in the background, and he wasn't in that Secret Wars run.
Yeah.
But really dug this splash, and I just bought a couple of, I don't know, 2 or 3 splashes from that run or something from Tommy Lee Edwards, and I think his wife was his rep, or I'm not sure, but she had sold me those, and I pinged her on this page right after I picked it up from the comic store at lunchtime when I popped out for work, and I missed it by 1 hour. Somebody else, she already booked it without it even being put anywhere on a website or whatever. I guess same kind of deal, just emailed and said I want the page, and so I was like disappointed. And then I knew who ended up picking it up, and then I was trying to work something out with him. Didn't work out. Ultimately, ended up on eBay, and I ended up snagging it, which I was super happy about.
It ended up on eBay is where you got it.
That's right.
Oh wow. Okay. And do you remember if it ultimately ended up costing you less than it would have otherwise, or more?
No, it was less than what the owner wanted, and I don't know if, I think at the end of the day he was moving some pieces, and we were talking about some other stuff too. I think for personal reasons he ended up moving them, but at the time he wanted, like, it was maybe the beginning of the flipping age, so there were quite a bit of flippers, and so I don't know if he was jacking it up for that reason or whether it was sentimental, and that's what it would take to unlock it. But at the end of the day, I got a fair price for it, which was much less than.
Okay, that's good. That's yeah, it's always nice when you get it for less than you otherwise you might have paid if you got.
That's an aspect of the hobby, right? You want to make sure that what you're investing or what you're buying it for, it's palatable to you, right? So
yeah, exactly, absolutely.
And I agree, Comic Art Boston, eBay used to be good, not so much now.
No. Well, listen, we can all argue the whole thing about used to and not so much now. For me, I literally haven't been a regular searcher of eBay probably since like 2005, and then I became kind of a part-time once in a while guy until maybe 2008, and ever since I would say around 2008, I don't go there unless either somebody wants to show me something on it, or if I'm on CAF and some little advertisement catches my eye and okay, what's this, right? And it takes me to that. But even when I go there, I look at that piece. I don't stay there and look around for more art. Like I leave right away. Yeah, I hate it.
I mean, this one I bought maybe in 2011, and that might have been the last time I actually bought something from eBay, art related.
Okay. Yeah. Art says the flipper age still exists. Yeah, more than
Yeah,
ever.
that was maybe the beginning of it. I don't know, or maybe, but the flipper age exists. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely so much crap to wade through. Pretty good for burn pages. Yeah, the thing is, Marcus, is I've always said though, right? It's fair enough to say that it's crap. That's not. I don't think that's unfair. And people will always say, they bring up these examples. Oh, but it did pretty good for these pages or whatever. Yeah. No matter how crap I will tell people it is, I will also still always admit that there are exceptions to every rule. And typically things that are like big name, big title, big character, famous runs, Silver Age, Bronze Age, that stuff, yes, it'll always still find enough of an audience. It'll go for the money, right? But
and then maybe end up on Heritage right after.
maybe right. Very often, absolutely,
Yeah.
very often, yeah, absolutely. So, but that's the thing, is that those are exceptions to the rule. Typically, it's generally crapola, and sometimes you get lucky, and there's guys like these weird names like New Asia Co. selling Tom Grummett New Titans art, and suddenly I'm in there, you know. I'm there trying to convince the guy to sell me off eBay, whatever, and then he says no to me, and I got a bid. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, Marcus. Yeah, I left your comment up there too long, but anyways, yeah, no, but I think we all understand where we're coming from with the whole eBay thing, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so let us move on now and take a look at your next piece that you got to show. And that is a guy who's another brilliant illustrator who has also, I don't think through collector's fault, but hasn't ever really garnered enough attention. And I think it's more because he's just never been a steady monthly guy on mainstream heroes. J.H. Williams III in a 7 Soldiers of Victory double page splash. This is wicked, man.
Yeah, I was really digging. I mean, I read the 7 Soldiers series. Didn't really read the Golden or Silver Age run, but like I said, when storylines or certain things hit, I mean, here's a story where the whole issue is building up these characters that are supposed to like heroically, get together and defeat an enemy that was prophesied, and then they all get like massacred at the end. So just that kind of wow factor. That's what this page is, and it really kind of resonated with me. And again, I missed out on the original purchase, and then picked it up from a Spanish collector actually. A little bit later on, and he was very. He sold to me for what he bought it for. Like, he wasn't looking to jack it up or anything, which was great. Really nice guy to deal with, and collector to collector. And yeah, I really enjoy this. In fact, it's for those of you that can see in the camera, you might even be able to see it in the background framed behind me.
Okay. Hold on a second. Let me come back to us and let me do.
Can you see it back there?
Hold on. Let me do this.
Right.
And then this. There it is, right over your left shoulder.
And then on the other side is a Sal Buscema Sienkiewicz inked clone series. What was that clone time period where Scarlet Spider?
The Spider-Man clone saga.
Very unique collaboration, getting Bill in.
Yeah. Oh, I loved. We talked about. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. I think Marcus had brought it up or whatever, but we were talking about Sienkiewicz, and then somebody brought up Sienkiewicz over Sal, and I think somebody had said, "Oh, I didn't like that much." I know I have a Vito who goes to Jeff's, who I travel to Jeff's house with every year. He despises that era of Sal Buscema because he hates Sienkiewicz. He hates Sienkiewicz. Yeah, he's like, I just don't get it, whatever. But no, I loved it.
And there's a Batman here by Bill as well, so he wouldn't like it either. But it's a huge painting.
Yeah, it's hard to see, of course, but it's pretty cool. You get a nice looking setup there with all the books and the paintings, frame stuff or whatever,
Yeah, except when I'm on work Zoom calls, and this is in the background, so I have to blur it out, before people start asking me about why I have the elongated Man Collected Edition back there on the shelf.
Yeah, DPS, damn perfect spot. Yeah. Let me see. Let me go back into. Sorry. Let me go back to the comments here for a sec, because I did want to say that, Mike, come on, like let's you know me, I'm always fair, Mike. Let's throw this out to everybody. Everybody else, why don't you all let us know in the chat? Let us know what you think. Do you agree with me more, or do you side with Mike more? He says that the J.H. Williams has a huge following and prices to match. I'm not saying he's unknown, Mike. Okay, just to be clear, I think a lot of people know the name J.H. Williams. What I'm saying is he's still very much under the radar from this point of view that you're not going to hear about a lot of collectors saying, oh, you know, when they talk to each other, oh, so you know, what do you collect? And guys going, oh, you know, I like John Byrne, I like Perez, I like J.H. Williams. It's a name that just, honestly, it does not come up a lot. He also hasn't really done very famous runs on mainstream superhero stuff, right? So I don't know, guys. Let me know, you know, what you know. And yeah, Marcus, same for me. I'm aware, whatever, but again,
the Sandman run, you know. And I'm not sure how long it takes him to do the work, but it seems like, you know.
Yeah, he does but he Sienkiewicz overpowers everybody. I still think it looks great though. So, but that's because I'm a Sienkiewicz fan, I guess, you know.
Yeah. When you see the originals of Sal, though, they were very loose compared to what he would do when he inked himself. So Bill had a lot of freedom, like that double page splash that I had back there. It was a very loose Sal, like it was hardly Sal, and Bill just did his own thing over it. So I think it depends on how much pencil time Sal had, and then Bill would take it from there. Like if it was hardly anything, then it's mostly Bill. From what I can gather from some of the originals that I have.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Jay is a master illustrator. Of course he is. I'm not saying anything about the quality of his work. In fact, he's great. All I said was he's a guy who he still doesn't get enough of attention. And I think it's because he has never worked on, you know, as a monthly guy on, you know, Spidey, X-Men, you know, whatever, Batman, you know, the mainstream guys. So that's all I'm saying is that I feel, given how good he is as an illustrator, I mean, he should have been way, way more popular than he ever became. That's what I'm saying. But nobody's really answered as to whether they agree with me more or with Mike. But yeah, that's just how I feel. That's you know, whatever. If you want something from J.H. Williams, it's got to be a DPS. God, he's famous for those, you know.
I agree. Yeah, beautiful.
Sells them on his own site. Yeah, okay. And it goes for a premium. But what's a premium, Mike? What's a premium? Because maybe to you it's a premium, but maybe other people think, okay, well, no, it's not bad, you know, like it's all relative, right? So all I can tell you is, yeah, look, the artists, you can kind of expect them to sell that at a premium. But oftentimes in the secondary market, it's a different story. And every time I've seen J.H. Williams on the secondary market, I got to say, it's been pretty affordable, you know?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And Comic Bar says, Nick, I'm very sorry. You need to run soon. Just wanted to thank you very much for being on the show. Hope to see more of you in the near future. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
I appreciate you sticking around as long as you did, Comic Bar Boston. I appreciate you. And we'll talk soon as always. And yeah, there you go. I appreciate that, CJ. See, 156 pieces on CAF. Like, that's nothing. Are you kidding me? That's nothing. That is 3 days worth on average. That is 3 days worth of postings on CAF. Okay? CAF has existed 20 years, and the sum total of J.H. Williams art on CAF is the equivalent of 3 days worth of postings. Come on, out of 20 years. Okay, so that just goes to show I am absolutely correct in saying he is an underappreciated artist. Come on, for sure, man. But Batwoman stuff is very sought after. Okay, yeah, it's very nice for sure. You know, that's certainly true. But all this stuff is gorgeous. I love it all. You know, yeah. Thank you. Good night, Comic Art Boston. Yeah. So what have you? You know, it is what it is. But yeah, it's very lovely. All right, so let us go on now to the next one, to another favorite of mine and a lot of other people's, Rick Leonardi, and I have to put it out there, and P. Craig Russell. Not only an excellent artist in his own right, but I always loved it when he inked other pencilers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Rick Leonardi got lucky. He also had Williamson inking him on his fill-in issues,
Yep.
the X-Men
Yep.
too. So he's had the benefit of a couple of great inkers. And yeah, I mean, I collected the X-Men. I think during this period, reading all the different storylines, and this was the Genosha, whatever the way to pronounce it.
Yeah, Genosha, yeah.
Storyline, and yeah, I think a great splash. Everybody but Wolverine, who was off on a side mission with Rogue. But I've always been a Colossus fan, so for this one, that resonates with me. This one,
yeah, me too. Yeah,
I think a good example of that X-Men team during that period of time.
Yeah. Oh, it's an excellent representation. Yeah, obviously, unfortunately, no Wolvie, which is a key thing. But yeah, if you're into X-Men, especially from this time period, you don't pass up on this level of a splash with this type of high quality content, just because the main mutant man is not there. You know what I mean? Like he's kick ass and everything, but like he's still not the end all be all, right? Like yeah.
And this one I picked up from a fellow collector. And
yeah. Was it privately, or was it like online, or?
It was just a private inquiry through CAF. And,
okay.
Yeah, I ended up working out a deal.
Oh, that's very cool. Cool. Sometimes those things work out. All right. So from there, why don't we jump backwards in time, just a little bit, and hit the king himself. And I'm unfortunately, who knows? Maybe Cab's still watching Comic Art Boston. I know you would appreciate this more than anything else. So hopefully, maybe you're still watching. I don't know. Maybe you haven't left yet.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the Jack Kirby collector, right? So
yeah,
I was really looking for an example. I really liked the New Gods run and the DC run, kind of that whole Fourth World stuff, and picked up all those back issues, really connecting the dots, and even Commandy to some degree. I was reading just all those issues in university, just kind of reading through these things, and really got a good appreciation. So, to get a title kind of splash, which is usually what I collect most, I think turned out as a good example with Calabac here in prison in the final issue of the New Gods run.
Yeah, and sorry, I missed these earlier ones. About the X-Men piece here, guys. Just you see, guys. I know I might be late to you, but I don't forget you, and I certainly don't ignore you. There you go. But yeah, classic DC. Kirby, absolutely. #1 Marvel fan. What's up, bud? Yeah, very nice. And yeah, good question. Nobody really asks very often on these shows. Marcus wants to know, any preference for a Kirby inker for you?
I would say maybe, nostalgically, Coletta, simply because it's Thor, and I think that has a feel to it. Probably not, as everyone knows, very honest to the original pencils, but, I think that I really like. But I also like the Hercules and that whole kind of that run. So that, maybe not so much on the technical side, but on the run side, I think favorable. And then I thought the gentlemen that inked him in DC were pretty good. I thought Royer, who did this one, did a fairly good job and was very, very honest to the original pencils from what I could see on some of the scans and things like that. So I thought that turned out pretty well.
Thanks, Terry.
And then it on Fantastic Four, I thought was really, really good as well.
Yeah, no, I grew also to appreciate Royer. I never really paid much attention, but that's just because I just never really cared much for the Kirby DC stuff. Like I just felt there was such a, in terms of the characters themselves, the designs, I just felt like, wow, what a, and this could go off into a whole, not only a whole other episode, but a whole series of episodes, this whole conversation. But I so I don't want to get too in the weeds with it, but I always felt like, wow, like he created all these amazing classic Marvel characters. And, you got all these people who love Stan and hate Stan. And the people who hate Stan, they just love Kirby and want to hate on Stan. And I'm just like, you know what, though? I think if you look at the evidence before you, classic Marvel characters, the way they look, the costumes, the designs, and suddenly, as soon as he leaves Stan and he goes on his own, creates a bunch more characters. They're kind of crappy compared to all the Marvel ones. Let's be honest. I'm not saying.
Yeah, I think the one thing that you always have to remember, like, these guys, this is a team effort. I know people want to say Stan, they want to say Jack, they want to say the inker, they want, like, these people all have to work together to generate a product, right? And I think we just underestimate how much collaboration there really was. Who knows what conversations were happening in the background?
For sure.
Maybe the DC editors are just like, run with it, Jack, run with it and do whatever you want. Maybe Stan's collaboration was deeper. It sounds like it, right? And so then you got a different product, right? And that probably resonated with you more than what was pumped out of DC. And I think to delineate, like, this person did this person did that, you know, just having worked in the like, there's much more collaboration probably than we see, you know, whether that's the editor giving the advice or whether that's the storyteller saying, I want this. Or the artists themselves, right? So
Oh, it's definitely more collaborative than what we see. I mean, clearly, right? We're not there at the office every day, and absolutely. We're not privy to all that, you know, all the nuance, you know.
I gotta get this done quickly, so erase all Kirby's lines, like Vince, you know.
Exactly.
Cut it all out. I gotta get this on the press. So.
That's it. You're telling me the deadline's tonight. Okay, I got to pull the eraser out. That's the quickest way. You want speed? I'll give you speed. You know. Right. Come on, number one Marvel fan. Oh, come on, man. I'm not the divider. I'm the truth sayer. I'm a truth sayer. I say what I feel, what I believe, and that's it. I'm not trying to disparage. That's how I feel. I just hate how over the years there have been so many Stan haters that came out of the woodwork and just hating on him, just to show support for Kirby, whatever. It's like they're jealous that Kirby died 30 years ago and he got to live an extra 25 years beyond or something. It's just, I don't know. It's just like, why hate, man? They both did some great stuff together, especially the best stuff that Marvel came out with both of them together. Right. So that's it. To me, they're both as equally responsible, and that's all there is to it, you know? Hey, David Matheny, what's up, man? So there you go. All right, so let's go to the next piece here. A commission by Paul Pope, gigantic commission by, the DC versus the MCU. Tell me about this one.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to meet Paul, have lunch with Paul, hang out, like I think I told you guys earlier. And I was looking at an example, ended up getting on Felix's list, and great to work with. And was trying to kind of get something that would resonate with Paul, right? So I think it started out as like, hey, would you be interested in doing something around like Secret Wars-ish, which I think is where some of these characters maybe popped up. But then I was kind of like, well, how about we do something with Wolverine and Batman as the core, and then you fill in the rest with the characters from DC and Marvel that resonate the most with you, and let's see how it turns out. And I think he did a pretty great job. You know, some of the characters a little bit more obscure than others, but I think really good examples from different things that probably Paul himself enjoyed.
Yeah.
And you could say, I don't know if you see Batmite on the bottom left, and then Superman is from the Fleischer cartoon, and you can see the Mechanical Menace on the bottom. And you got the different pieces. I think where Herbie the robot is, or was supposed to be Spider-Man, and maybe it didn't work out. So
and I just had to ask, because I never asked you privately, who colored it?
I feel like the name is Bruno Selig, but I'm not sure now off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. Somebody that Paul collaborates with.
But it was colored because you requested it to be colored?
No, it was colored because Paul had fun with it, I think, and asked to get colored, maybe with the intent to make it a print at some point.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really wicked. If you're into Paul Pope, it's like, wow.
Yeah, you got Ultron being torn in half. Not Ultron. Yeah. Brainiac. Sorry, Brainiac.
Brainiac.
Yeah.
And by Colossus, one of our favorites.
That's right. And then on the bottom left, you see Ultron on the bottom there with Big Barda. Probably knocked him out in this chopper.
Yeah, that's right. Fun. Yeah, that's really cool. Very cool. And Rick points out Magic. Where's Magic?
Yeah,
Magic. Yeah, the bottom right with Wonder Woman. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. Oh, very cool. It's very cool. And by the way, do you know the dimensions offhand or no?
This is bigger than a double page splash. So I think it's like yeah, 19 by, I think 19, and then across.
Well, it's 22 usually.
It's more than that. I think it's like maybe 24 by 19. No, it's got to be bigger than that. I'd have to take a look, but
yeah,
bigger than a double page splash.
Bigger than, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. And looks away as David. It says, define our favorite. Looks away as a Cyclops fan. That's okay. I like Cyclops too. Sometimes he annoyed me, but whatever. Like I still have a soft spot in my heart for Cyclops as the longtime leader of the group. That's all right. We all love who we love, and that's it.
Everybody has a character that
yeah.
Absolutely. Some people were Professor X fans, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I had a soft spot for him too. I would never say he was my favorite, but I still loved him. I felt like they were a family. That's what I loved about the X-Men.
Right.
They were a family, and I felt like they brought me in as a kid. I felt like they brought me in, and I was part of that family. Always like, silently watching from in the corner of the room or whatever. So yeah. Okay, and so guys, we have one last piece here to show from Nick's collection. A really, really kick-ass piece by Bill Sienkiewicz, one of his favorites and mine. And check this out, Elektra Assassin, a commission that he commissioned himself from Bill and got it in 2022. So yeah, tell us a little bit about this. And if you want, it's up to you, Nick, how much of the story you really want to get into. But before you say anything, I do, let me come back to you. I do want to say, on my channel, on various shows, we have often, this topic has come up about commissioning, people who are late on commit. So it's not a secret. Everybody knows about Bill. Bill will admit he's late all the time and he owes people. It's so just saying, don't be shy to say whatever you want to say. Like it's not like it's a secret.
Well, I just say I feel very lucky that I have the commission with me, knowing the stories of others. But it did take a very long time, and Bill stayed in touch the entire time. But it was an exercise in patience, we'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
And the intent here, I mean, the story goes, I actually had a commission from him that turned around very quickly. And it was a kind of a rework of Nick Fury versus Shield. Except with Elektra instead of Countess Valentina, and he did a great job. Yeah, and I was like, "Wow, he turned around so quick. Let's do another one, but more intricate." And that was a little bit of a different experience. But I really like the Elektra Assassin series, and I'm lucky enough to have examples from that. But I wanted to see if he could create like a trade paperback version cover that summarizes, or if there was an additional cover to that series, what would it look like in the style of that series? And I think he did a really good job capturing the main points of the run. There's a few, like if you see it in person, there's a few things like that top left Garrett on the bike is from the trade paperback cover. Okay, for those of you that know that cover, you can see the Shield logo that they use throughout the series here. If you look behind the Shield logo, it's actually Ken Wind, sinisterly kind of blended in there, using the same stamp that they used through the whole run for his face with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you got Garrett, Elektra, and obviously the main antagonists in there. But the layout of this particular cover, we had agreed, would be based on the James Bond poster. I think it's The Spy That Loved Me. I think that's the one. But anyway, where you get to kind of see a little bit of the technology, and then you get the main characters, which at the time Garrett is like James Bond, and then there's the femme fatale that's in the poster. So for those of you that are interested, you can always compare the poster to it. But I thought it turned out great, and it sounded like Bill had a lot of fun with it, and even through the whole.
Sounds like number one Marvel fan is looking to pick up a Bill piece.
Yeah.
That's what he's hoping, anyways. Yeah. After what you went through, this is the last thing that's going to go out for sale, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, and when you have these commissions that take a long time, sometimes you just feel sour about the whole experience. But like I said, the connection was fairly frequent, and he was always responsive. We went through it. It took a long time, and ultimately the result turned out great. So no, didn't turn sour for me or anything like that, where, you get commission, you put it up on Heritage the next day kind of thing. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think he did a great job.
I mean, I totally know where you come from. I've only done, I don't know, a handful of commissions or whatever in my time in the hobby. And, I did an entire roundtable chat show about the whole commissioning process, which was a very lively show. And yeah, look, there's a lot of pros and cons that go into, doing, commissioning, and yeah, you really know what what you're getting yourself into. And sometimes it pans out, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, but when it does, yeah, it's fantastic. And like what you just said about, I'm happy to hear that in spite of how long it took for you to get it, I'm glad that looking at it doesn't just evoke the memories of how long I waited. I thought I was never going to see it, and so, you know what I mean. So that you hate it and want to get rid of it, because that easily happens to a lot of people,
Yeah, and going into it, I mean, this is not a new phenomenon in this situation, right? So going into it, there were some, it's not surprising, and I didn't feel lost in the process,
Yeah.
I knew what it was, and it's a bit of a gamble, right, with some of these things. But I've been lucky with all the commission work, and I will say probably more recently I've done more commission stuff than I had earlier on. Like these, there's a few of them, but very specific. Here's what I'm looking for. Let's pick the things that resonate with you, and let's make it happen, right? So you can see that in the Pope piece. I think there's a Blevins one in my calf gallery, which is like a recreation of his cover. Like, where they can feel and have fun, I think you have a better chance of getting something that works. Yeah. So Bill had a lot of fun with this, I think, and you could see it in the final product, right?
No, absolutely.
So I think it's good to kind of talk through that in the process to make sure it's something that fits both the buyer and the creator, right? So
absolutely, that's one of the,
because it's competing with regular work, right?
Yeah,
they want to have the impetus to actually go to do it on the same drawing table that they've got a bunch of other deadlines, right?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. David, I'm obviously I know the AF, but what's the DG? Commissions are the bee's knees unless the artist something. I know the AF, but what's the DG, man? I don't know, that's going over my head.
Doesn't give.
Huh?
Doesn't give.
Oh, right. There you go. Oh. See, usually the AF is as, not The A is usually as, and it usually comes after the word sexy when you're talking about the hot chicks or whatever. Commissions are the original art version of gambling.
There you go. It's timing. It's the topic. It's a whole bunch of things. And I'll tell you, like when I was at conventions drawing, like illustrating, people would come to me and be like, can you draw me an Archie? Well, guess what? I don't really draw Archie, so you're going to get the quality of Archie that I can provide in 20 minutes at a convention. And it is what it is. So you're going to be, I know it's not going to be great. You know it's not going to be great, but you selected Archie, which I don't draw. And so, you have to also kind of take some ownership on some of those things, I think, as well, in terms of like, what's the situation? What are you asking for?
Or like Hart says, but sometimes they take the money and run. Sometimes they will.
True. I mean, that's shady.
Steal from you.
That's shady. I mean, I totally, yeah.
And Hart's a good pal, and he's told us he hasn't really told us the full story, but he's had some shitty luck with commission. He used to be a big time commission guy, and he claims he got burned more than 25% of the time on his commissions, and he did over 100 of them.
I believe it. I totally believe it.
That's crazy, though.
Yeah, which is a shame. Which makes
you imagine
the commissioning process terrible?
Yeah, can you imagine what he feel like? What I would feel inside? I can't even imagine. Like, it would just eat away at my soul. One after another, turning out like that.
It becomes difficult to actually separate the experience with the enjoyment of the art that got you there.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Looks like Kazra's trying to get you to start up again.
Yeah, I still do commissions here and there. Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Do you really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it doesn't take as long as the ones that I got, just that we put up here.
I asked Dick Ayers to draw Spectre for me one time, and he looked at me like I had a potato growing out of my temple. Why? What do you mean? You mean because he was mostly
You like the Spectre?
Nice. Well, actually, Scott, I actually had him on my show a couple of weeks back, and he's a big-time Spectre guy. He had some really kick-ass Spectre pieces.
How about this? Let me show you. Just give me 1 second. Let me pull it off the wall.
Okay, cool. All right. Oh, what is that?
I don't know if you can see it in the light, but
it's hard with the reflection. But Sienkiewicz.
No,
is that Sienkiewicz?
It's a Sienkiewicz Spectre cover. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it from the '90s series?
From the 1990s. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Holy smokes.
So I was just teasing on Spectre. Don't worry. I didn't mean to.
Oh well, hoarders hide there, Mr. Scott. You got some nice stuff, anyways. You can let Nick have that one. That's fine, you know. But it's good. You shared. Now he's sharing with you, so it's cool.
Yeah.
Marcus wants to know if you draw a good MODOK because somebody collects MODOK, as we know.
I've drawn a lot of MODOK.
Yeah. Specificity is helpful, but also a straitjacket for an artist. Exactly. The more freedom they have, obviously, the more likely it's going to come out good. You know, Hart, man. You know, we know each other, and you know we all kind of know each other. But Nick is new here, you know, so I kind of have to. You know, we're talking about the topic. I got to let him know what's happening. You know, it's like I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but I feel for you, Hart. You know that I feel for you. You know, that when you told us that, I couldn't even believe it. It was just off my rocker. I couldn't believe how crazy that story was. So, yeah. So there you go. Cosra thinks that Marcus is the one who likes great MODOKs. Okay. After 5%, I would say no fucking way. Okay. You see, you should have. Too bad you didn't know Hart. If you'd known Hart back in the day, you could have saved them a lot of. You could have saved them 20% of grief. You know.
Yeah.
So don't leave us in suspense. Did you have a potato growing out of your head? Yeah, exactly. What happened, Scott, with that whole Dick Ayers thing? He was a Marvel guy, so I guess he didn't know who the hell the Spectre was. That's probably what he meant by it. He didn't remember the Spectre being in the Howling Commandos. Right?
Good one.
Talking about conditions or tattoos now. Well, you know, on this show, we go anyway, David. So you never know, you know. Marcus and his crotch goblins. Yeah, get a tattoo of that. But yeah, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Nick, awesome show, man. I appreciate you doing this. It's been really good. I hope you had some fun, anyways.
I was enjoying hanging out with you, and it's great to hang out with fellow collectors and collectors that I know, or maybe pinged on calf trying to bother them to make trades or something. You know, I recognize some of the names.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you know, like you guys know Nick a little bit more now. You ever want to reach out and you think he has something you may like, or you may have something he likes? Who knows, right?
I'm not a bot, and hopefully I'm not trying to rip you off, but you never know.
Yeah. The new band, Marcus and the Crotch Goblins. That's a good one. I'd listen to them just to see what they sang about, you know? Probably Crotch Goblins. Yeah, so you ended up with a Howling Commando sketch, of course, and a Jonah Hex sketch. Naturally, what else is Dick Ayers gonna do, you know? That is so funny. But okay, everybody, want you to tune in next week. We're gonna talk next week. Thank you, CJ. Before you leave, I see already a few people left. Let me show you what we're gonna do next week. Next week, I got a new show starting. It may be once per year, once every quarter, once every 6 months. Don't know yet. We'll see how it goes. It all depends on what happens within the hobby. But we're gonna have some fun because it's these are topics we all talk about, and they always come up, and it's always very interesting and to get into. So this is what we're gonna do next week. All right, and I'm gonna have a member of our live chat crew with me in the studio. Leaving it as a surprise for now. Honestly, because it's fun, but more than anything because he gave me a picture that it just wasn't working well, and I needed him to get. I asked him today to get me another picture, but that's it. So tune in, yes, please, next week, and we're just going to talk about the state of the hobby. I'm going to give my state of the hobby address along with my special guest. And yeah, it's really just talking about what's going on with the hobby. You know, we're always talking about, you know, half of us think, oh, it's going to continue forever. And half of us seem to think the crash and the bubble are going to explode soon, whatever. And yeah, so that's kind of what we're going to talk about. And, you know, it's those discussions are always very, very lively. So, yeah, I think you should tune in. It's going to be a lot of fun. And yes, hope to see. Yeah, hope. Yeah, we'll see for sure. For sure, we'll be there, right? So as long as it happens, and it may be very early, guys. It may be early this year because Jeff and Jane are moving. They're going to have to move this summer. So he said he may be doing it very early before they move, so they can do it one last time at that house. You know. So that's it. Let's see what else. A new show. Yeah, well, like I said, not a regular show, but yeah, it's like a state of the hobby address, and state of the hobby better than NASDAQ. we can all be Magic the Gathering and heckle you. Nice. Dang it, Dino is one every other week. Yeah, no, Dino can't come on too often. Nobody wants to see the same people every week, anyways. Even I don't want to see myself, but I'm the host, so I kind of have to be. So what's to protect the innocent? Yeah, precisely. Well, just for now, I'll schedule the show in the next few days. As soon as he gives me a new picture, I'll put it up there, and you'll see it on YouTube when you get your notifications for it. Shade the Changing Man. Yes, exactly. As a buyer, less bubble, more trouble. Nice. Needs more walls for art. He's downsizing actually, Rich. So less room for art now. And hopefully Hobby Halbert's doing well. I mean, I haven't heard from him since the beginning, but there you go. And Kazra says, great to see your face, Nick. I thought you were talking to me, as usual, ignoring me. But thank you.
It's nice to hear from you. I'm happy you spent the time. And thanks to everybody for spending the time. Yeah,
thanks. Honestly, I'm always fucking around, but I do appreciate everybody as always. You guys know that. I love all you guys, especially the regulars who keep coming in every week after week after week. And like I said, I just keep trying to do whatever I can do to make it sort of fun for all of us, so that we can all hang out, shoot the shit together, yeah. And that starts with me obviously trying to get different people to come on. And that's why I obviously appreciate everybody. And tonight, obviously you, Nick. But no matter what happens on screen, I always say, none of this matters if you guys don't show up. I would never do pre-recorded material. That's just not for me. It's boring. I do it because it's the ability to do this live with you guys, because it's just a way to hang out with you guys, That's the main thing. You guys are the secret sauce in the live chat crew. You guys are the secret sauce for sure, man. So thank you, Kazra, and really appreciate seeing you. Thank you for dropping in. And I'm glad you saw the show that I did with Jeff. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, thank you again, everybody. Appreciate you. Please don't forget to buy Rich. And thank you as well as always, Rick. Thank you so much. Don't forget to drop in to Nick's show on Friday, 7 p.m. And then again, please be back here at the usual 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock. 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. You repeat the same thing over and over, and it just becomes, what was it again? Next Sunday for the State of the Hobby address with my special guest, the Shadow Man. That's it. And until then, peace.